comments, so they wouldn't respond to everything.
Okay, I'm going live right now. We'll see how it looks.
Maybe I'll pull up YouTube.
Yeah, like I can't see you guys anymore, but now, okay, now do you guys see that view?
I don't see Josh now.
So yeah,
Okay, hold on.
Me.
Well, I just minimized my window, so
I can hear you. I just don't see. I see the rest of you guys.
We'll see how
I better turn the volume down though. There we go. See, I can see, and then the comments will come through on my phone, but I won't mention too much. So.
Oh, this is going to be different.
Yeah, there's like a delay.
yeah, we can see the comments on the phone though, so at least that's something.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Phone.
Brandon,
What's going on, fellas?
what's going on, man?
Well, hello, Brandon. I just watched you a second ago.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I did.
Well, do you have a new video? I was busy doing stuff.
Yeah, it's been kind of busy last week or so, so I haven't made a lot, but I actually just shot a video last night, just showing a couple of recent things, and Aaron, of course, your VCLT.
Oh, cool.
Which was awesome.
Aaron's the king of the VCLT.
Oh man, I might. I got to go get my glasses too. I might need that.
I see Matthew Phillips, my friend from Canada, is already watching.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Chris.
Trophy in the house.
Yeah. It's weird to think that just a week ago, I was headed to visit you guys. That's crazy.
I know, man. It was fantastic. So, Chris, out of all the records you got, favorite?
What's my favorite?
Yeah, the ones you got in my neck of the woods.
It's funny. I'm still going through them. We got a shitload of records.
Yeah, we did.
And that whole thing of work kind of gets in the way. But so far, I love the Voivod Angel Rat. It's such a great record. And as I told you, Josh, I was just listening to the Dawes album, and such a great band. I mean, his voice kind of reminds me a little of Steve Miller in places. And they kind of have a little bit, they're not a jam band, but they kind of have a little bit of a jam band quality to their music, mixed with like Tom Petty. So there's like a lot of stuff going on. But
yeah, I totally agree. And they evolve, their albums evolve. So if you get a chance to check out one of their newer albums, like All Your Favorite Bands or something along that line, you'll see the evolution of that band. They're great.
Yeah, such a great band. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. We got so much music. I haven't even listened to Live After Death yet. I love the LA Guns too. Such a great album.
Killer.
But
well, one day, Gary, Brandon, Aaron, you guys got to visit. Come on down. I'll show you a good time in New England.
Oh, most
Show
definitely.
us a good time. Oh,
yeah. We'll get to go to the basement of Purchase Street, which lives up to the hype. You can ask the guys.
What was that
it really
shit?
does. The basement, like it's a little tricky getting down there. I wasn't sure, I thought, oh, well, there's probably an escalator down to the basement. And, it's not like that at all. Like you have to, really like maneuver around some obstacles. You have to watch your head. There's hot pipes running along the ceiling that if you're tall like me, you have to watch out for. You have to move boxes and obstacles and, to get at what you want. But just like anything that's worth digging for, when you find something magical in there, it's totally worth the trip. Like I got, that OMD record, which is $100 record. He gave it to me for under $25, like probably closer to like $15. So he, and I went up there and I was like, oh, how much, do I have here? And, I told him, and it was a little more than I wanted to spend. And he like dropped it down to what I told him I was hoping to spend. So he's very, Roger's very reasonable about that.
So
And probably, Chris, you had the same experience.
So
I
this
just can't
is
believe some of the stuff you pull out of there. Like when you, Josh, you got Love by the Cult.
Yeah,
I mean,
unbelievable.
That's crazy that was even down there. I don't know about you guys, but I have never seen that out in the wild somewhere.
Yeah, it's crazy when you get to go down there. Not everybody gets to go down there. So anybody watching that goes to Purchase Street, you're really probably not going to get to go in the basement. But you know.
so
it's
we're
like
live
you
right
can.
now, huh?
Yeah, we are.
We are live, yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
What's up, everybody?
Everybody being one person right now, I think.
No, we've got a couple in there. We've got Jason and we've got the Monkeys collection, dude.
Well, to be fair, we said 8 o'clock, so yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, we've gathered some of the best in the VC. You know,
Well, now that Brandon is here, yeah.
We have the best.
Oh,
You got it. Where's Melinda
Before
Murphy?
that,
Let's
not
get,
so much.
let's get Melinda Murphy and Frank on here. I know we all set.
Then
So we'll have
we don't even need to
Brandon,
be-
Melinda, and Frank, the three heavy hitters.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, God bless Melinda Murphy. I'm so glad that she's fine. Melinda,
Yeah.
if you ever watch this, we love you.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Awesome.
so are one of you gentlemen responding to comments and all that, and how's that work?
Well, we
I have
will.
been responding. I've got it up on my phone.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not-
don't know. How do I see comments? Because
You just pull up the live
yeah, we're not
chat.
seeing him here. I got to see him on my phone for whatever reason here.
This is
Yeah,
exciting.
let's see.
I don't know. How do I see comments?
Oh, we're getting echoes.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
your
well-
phone has to be down.
Well, Josh, do you mind, since you can pull it up, I can't see anything on my phone, but can you, do you mind being the comment person? Like, can you sort of keep track
Yeah.
of the comments okay.
Definitely. The only time I'll put my phone down is when I have to look at my list of songs for the album. So,
Okay. Yeah.
but then someone else can. But yeah, so far we're good. We got 2 in the house. We got actually 9 people in the house, I
Yeah.
think. Let me see.
Well, of course, we're part of that.
11.
Exactly.
Yeah, 5 over
So
here.
basically 3 people are watching us.
People.
Yeah.
Best people.
Do they know that Brandon's here? Because that's
Come
going to
on.
bring the views.
Come on.
Oh, I'm the tourist attraction.
You're the
You
tourist.
are.
Yes, you are.
I'm the
Josh
freak.
and Brandon.
I'm the freak of the
Yeah,
freak.
Josh.
Josh and
Josh and Brandon.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. That's a heavy. That's what's drawing in all the people. Chris, you're here to draw in the chicks.
Oh yeah. I wish.
Josh and Brandon. I mean, it really should be called Josh. We should just call it Josh and Brandon, a bunch of mediocre YouTubers.
No. Not
Exactly.
true.
You can just call me Tag Along Joe. I'll go with that.
Walk away, Joe.
Walk away, Joe.
Trisha Yearwood.
You know it.
Well, that's Trisha Yearwood and Don Henley. Actually, that song.
Brandon, I've never seen that Electric Ladyland throw. Is that a rug or something behind you that's hanging up now? I feel like your background's changed. I can see Country Life, Roxy Music. I can see David Bowie,
Yep.
Aladdin Sane back there, which I don't think I've seen those before. Are those new?
Yeah, well, I just kind of changed stuff around. Actually, I'm kind of going to fix this room up a little bit to make it to kind of just boost this system a tad. So I just picked up a new phono stage, and then I'm also going to kind of do, some soundproofing and stuff like that. So just trying to make this room a little more, trying to pull a little more out of my system. So that's just what's kind of hanging up there for now.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, your room is already epic, dude.
Yeah.
So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We have Flat Round and Spun. He's joined us. What's going on, bro? Hope you're doing
Awesome.
well. We'll wait for a few more.
So how hard was it for you guys to pull your list together?
Took me about 2 minutes.
Wow. Well,
Mine- You can go, Josh.
Say, me and Chris kind of had a debate that Jeff wished he had filmed. It wasn't even a debate, it was a discussion while we were chilling last weekend about load and reload. So my mind started working on the list at that moment of what songs I would pick. But go ahead, Chris. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't too tough. I knew right away most of the songs that I wanted on here and most of the songs I didn't want. But my last 3 or 4 songs, because I kind of put it, of course, in terms of the way that I wanted the running order, like we all did. So I was listening to it in my car, pretending that I was listening to a real CD. So I was actually changing around a little bit of the order. And like just this morning, I took a song off. I had 14 songs and now I'm down to 13. But I think for me personally, I think I got all the best ones. Yeah, so we'll see.
Wait,
I was reading something.
What was the list supposed to be again?
Make load and reload one album, but you could choose as many songs as you wanted or as little as you wanted.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was reading something recently that James Hetfield said he was not happy with artwork for Load, which
Oh, yeah,
and
he hated it.
I assume you guys know what that image is.
Yeah.
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 Like sperm and blood.
It's semen.
The other fluid, yeah.
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 And
the other fluid.
what, I don't know. What do you guys think about the art? I mean, compared to what came before, I mean, obviously you had the Black Album, but Metallica, I think, had some iconic artwork for, their first 5-6 releases. And then, I don't know, I'm kind of like lukewarm about Load and definitely Reload. I think the Reload cover is just really bland.
Well, I want to talk about this too. Josh and I were talking about this, and this kind of goes along with the cover. Unfortunately, the music on these 2 albums got overshadowed by the logo change, the cover. When you open it up, Metallica is suddenly in, stylish clothes, some makeup. They cut their hair. So I think we all sort of got wrapped up in this. It's like, what the frick is going on with this image change? So Josh and I were like, you know what? They should have just done kept whatever. If they want to cut their hair, fine. But they should have worn just regular street clothes. Maybe kept the logo. And not everybody, I think, would have jumped ship so fast. I mean, it's sad that we're all going, oh my God, they cut their hair. But back in whenever year this came out in, that was a big deal.
Yeah, and I read in an interview today that James Hetfield's not happy with the art direction whatsoever. Not just the cover. He said that he made compromises to appeal to Lars and Kirk, and he did not want to do any of that. And it was also spawned by the first video, Until It Sleeps, which is a fantastic song. But people had made up their minds. I mean, Aaron can testify to this because I know we both were Metallica fans early on in the 80s. People were pissed off with Injustice for All. People were pissed off with the Black Album. People kept jumping ship. People got pissed off at Ride the Lightning, that they had a ballad on there. Metallica fans have always been pissed off at the band, even though they're the biggest band in the world. So you can imagine what a shock it was. And I remember when this album came out, and I had a friend, Sean, I'm still friends with him to this day. He took the CD and threw it out his car window.
Wow.
He opened it up, saw the picture, and threw it out. He goes, they're a bunch of fucking sellouts. That's what he said. And he didn't even want to hear the music. And it's like, that sucked because the music is good. It was a real bummer.
The other thing too is if you look up YouTube interviews of the band from this time, Lars is probably the worst out of all 4 of them. I mean, he got totally sucked into that superstardom, and you can tell he thinks he's hot shit. And I think that, he was hot shit. I mean, Metallica still is, like you said, Josh, one of the biggest metal bands. I think it's just, I don't know. It does scream sellout a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You're right, Chris, too, because it was right about that time. If you go back and look a lot of the interviews and stuff like that, it was that time when Lars started smacking his lips before everything that he said.
Yep.
I mean, as stupid as that sounds, it was that time when he got into the whole, well,
yeah,
like, well, no, you like don't go there, just like
Yeah.
you were just saying. But it's really weird because you could so clearly see that change in his attitude.
and you can see I'm thinking of like, hey, what did Testament think during this time? And what did frickin', Anthrax and all these other bands think? They're probably like, I mean, they probably could forgive Metallica for the Black Album, but then they're like, what the hell are they doing for Load and Reload? Because they all came up in the same school.
Well, keep in mind, Chris, that Megadeth did Risk.
That's true. Yeah.
They were trying to follow suit.
Anthrax did, the whole rap thing before that, so they kind of went a little off differently too. So
yeah, and I guess Overkill came out with an album called I Hear Black, which is kind of like their, just gonna say grunge album.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. Like, if you think about Garage Inc., like just like really, really quick, what do you think? What do you guys think people thought about Garage Inc.?
That's a really great question. Because they Turn the Page was a huge hit. Huge. I remember that WAAF in Boston, which was the largest Boston rock radio station, played Turn the Page 3 times in a row when it was debuted. That's how big of a song it was. And so was Whiskey in a Jar. I think what saved Garage Inc. too was it had songs like Bread Fan, The Prince, all those Motorhead songs, the Merciful Fate medley. So I do think that saved them a little bit. Plus the song I Disappear, which came out in 2000.
Yeah.
I think that had a lot of goodwill too, because even though they were fighting the Napster thing, no matter what you guys say, and when you look at your list, Fuel was a huge hit. Fuel wasn't on Reload. I don't know if that album would have sold as well as it did. I mean, that was enormous for them. And it's crazy because these albums sold incredibly well. But do you know that since Saint Anger, the band does not play hardly any songs off these albums. Like Fuel is one of the only songs they play live. Yeah. They played Fixer the other day for like the first time. But
yeah.
Well, and they weren't the first band to do something like this. I mean, you had Guns N' Roses with Use Your Illusion. You had Bruce Springsteen with Lucky Town, and I forget what the companion one to that was, but
Human Touch.
Yeah, Human Touch. Instead of releasing these double albums, they were just putting out, separating them into different CDs. And I think you could have almost the same debate with both of those records also. But,
well, I will say this. These albums have aged well. I like these albums better now than I did when they first came out. And the other thing too is that when you listen to Ride the Lightning, my favorite Metallica record, it just screams 80s thrash. This music is a little harder to pigeonhole. And I think that that's what they were going for. It's like, let's make some timeless music that you can listen to in 2022 and it still sounds fresh.
Well, I think, they're always, anytime a band makes any kind of stylistic change, or when they get popular to a different group besides just some genre or a subgenre, then instantly the word sellout, boom, there it goes. We're throwing this on the wall. That's just the way people are. Metallica had decided, James Hetfield said it. He goes, look, I have written all of these fast songs. He goes, I know I can do that. He said, I want to do something different right now. And so that's what these albums were. That was them expanding themselves a bit. And a lot of people obviously are not going to go along with that. And the fact that, you talk about, well, Metallica lost fans for this album, and then the Black Album, Justice for All and everything. But for every fan they lost, they gained 5 more.
Right.
They just became one of the biggest bands in the world. And yeah, we might say like, Ride the Lightning is their best album type thing, but it doesn't mean that it makes these other albums, any worse for the wear. And I'm guilty of that. with certain bands. I've got bands to where when they kind of reached a point and they changed, I didn't go along with the ride. Now, I don't think they sold out. I don't use that term, but like, for instance, in my mind, I'm thinking of like Rush and U2. They reached a certain point to where I'm like, that's not the band I fell in love with. And I'm just not that crazy about the direction that they're going. But, hey, God bless them. They could do whatever they want to do. This is what got their creative juices going. And, more power to them. I don't expect them to keep doing the exact same thing that they did at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, Metallica went back and kind of revisited, that style, a couple of years later, but I don't know. I just think that when people use that sellout term, a lot of times it's just them saying, I don't like what the band has
Right.
changed a bit and I don't like it.
Right. And one of the reasons I asked about the Garage Inc. because I think a lot of people do tend to accept and really like that album. And I think if you really dive in and listen to Load and Reload, they're really kind of playing off of the same idea they had with Garage Inc. The difference is they weren't covering other people's songs, but to me it seems like James was writing and they were playing songs in other people's styles. Is what I get from Load and Reload. So like, even if you go through, just to take a quick look, like on Reload, if you have songs, would be a good example, like what was that? Like Where the Wild Things Are. Like, to me, I can never listen to that song without thinking about why in the world did Alice in Chains never cover that song? Because it is totally and completely an Alice in Chains grunge type of song. Or stuff like Bad Seed. To me, I think Pantera. Every time I listen to that song, I hear, of course, it's not as heavy and everything else, but it's a total Pantera type of riff. All the stuff that sounds like Thin Lizzy, the stuff that sounds like ZZ Top.
Yeah.
I just think that's what they were doing, was like, we dig all of these bands that are doing these different things. Instead of covering their songs, I'm going to write songs that they probably would have written themselves. And if you look at Load and Reload through that lens, I think it comes across very, very different.
Well, yeah, and you're mentioning different styles. I think what threw a lot of people off for this album too is there's some country music in here too.
Yes.
You listen to the little guitar lick in Unforgiven 2. There's a slide guitar in that song. And also the song Mama Said, which is a killer song.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of a country rock song.
Yeah, what was that other one? Low Man's Lyric. Same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
So good. Yep. And when I do my list, guys, it's crazy how many of my favorite songs I left off. But when Jeff's ready, we'll get into our list. I'll explain it. But it was hard to make this list.
A totally different view of records than you guys do, but I'll get to that when I get to it.
All right.
And I just want to say I love Gary's shirt.
Thank you.
All right, there we go, Gary.
That's awesome.
Is there more to it, Gary, than just the ABBA logo and Arrival?
It's got the band. It's got the cover of the album.
Yeah, we just wanted to see your chest, Gary. So
pretty much.
Nobody wants.
Hey guys,
to see
just
that.
So you know, Zep Pearl is joined us. So some channel.
Thanks.
Anthony is with us. Anthony Ferraro or Ferraro. I cannot pronounce your last name. Ferraro. Sorry, guys. I'm not good at pronouncing names. But Gary, there was a question for you on who the Vikings were going to pick today with their number one pick. Records are with us. And someone wants to know if we're going to post this after. So we'll have to wait for Jeff to get back and see if we're going to post it after. I'm assuming that we will. What's that, Aaron?
I just want to ask one favor. I'm actually recording the draft, so I don't want to know anyone's picks until afterwards.
Okay.
If you can help them tell me. I'm really into
the draft, guys.
Really into it, yeah. I like to watch it as it's happening, kind of thing. So.
All right, cool. So
what time does that start?
It's 6. Well, 6 my time, so that's 8 your time. Starting at the same time as we are.
All right.
Jeff, we did have a question if you're going to post this later.
Got a question? Oh yeah, we're gonna definitely post it. Yeah, I'm recording it right now. So it'll definitely be up, probably by later this evening.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
Dwayne St. John is here. He says hi too.
Awesome.
Dwayne.
Hey, dude.
Hi, Dwayne. So we got about 4 minutes before we get onto our list, but anybody have any other thoughts about Load, whether it's the artwork, whether it's, where the band in terms of, where they were at musically, or, I don't know, anything we can talk about.
My thought is this, and this is really, I think things are going to change when the massive box set comes out. So Metallica's working on their deluxe box set for Load and Reload. And the reason why I think something's going to change is Metallica's pretty much ignored this for like a decade or so, or almost 2 decades, these albums. And they were massive albums. Think about, they sold millions and millions of copies, right? And they're ignoring them, essentially. Even like when they did the Walmart reissues, did they do Load and Reload?
Yeah, nope.
For color variants? No, they just ignored it. So I think that Metallica being forced to go in and remaster these and listen to the songs again, I do think that we're going to see a lot of people discover this album probably for the first time. My son is 14 years old. He's seen Metallica 3 times in concert, and he doesn't know these albums. Like I played it for him, and he's like, "This is Metallica," because he grew up with Ride the Lightning and Justice for All. That's what they play on the radio, Kill 'Em All, right? That's what I gravitate to the majority of the time. I have to thank Joe from Art Room Records for sending this to me, because I discovered it again and realized, oh yeah, there's so many good songs. And since then, I've been listening to Reload a lot more too. So even myself discovered this album in the last year. So I'm really interested to see, once the box set comes out, we have this big marketing push, will more people discover this album and get behind this album, especially the younger generation?
Yeah.
Well, is Saint Anger going to be a part of that? I mean, because the same could be said
so.
for that album too.
Yeah, they're eventually going to do it for every Metallica album. So their plan is to release this, super deluxe box set, goddamn super deluxe box sets. That's what their plan is. Try to take all our money.
I need Saint Anger and Death Magnetic super deluxe. I love those two.
Maybe they'll throw them together.
I'm hoping for a Lulu super deluxe box set.
Yeah,
I buy that.
I am the table.
What would really sell is if they paired Lulu with Metal Machine Music by Lou Reed.
Yeah.
That would sell.
Really like
Oh my God.
What's, Chris, the Beastie Boys, when before Adam passed away, when they released that first greatest hits, they released a version you could buy in the store, but they also released a version online. They said they would pick the 30 songs, whatever it was, and we'll create a greatest hits for you. It would be so cool if Metallica did something like that. Like, okay, we'll pick the songs you want and we'll give you the ultimate load. Like we'll make you a CD or a copy of the version that you want.
Dwayne St. John says we need more super deluxe box sets. LOL. Yeah, we don't have enough. They're not flooding the market in any way with these super deluxe box sets. And as a Beatles fan, I mean, I can certainly tell you, I can't be a hypocrite and say, oh, super deluxe box sets are just money grabs, because, I can tell you, I bought my share of these super deluxe. I get sucked in like everybody, but I have to be a little discriminating about, okay, well, I like this band, I like this album, like the Black Sabbath ones. I totally have been so close to pulling the trigger on some of those. And I'm just like, I just can't. I can't spend $120 on Sabotage. I want to, but
well, at least it's only 120. I mean, and you get a lot in those Black Sabbath box sets. At least Black Sabbath is not hosing their fans. You have to, and I know you love the Rolling Stones. I love the Rolling Stones, but the Rolling Stones are charging $50 for a double album. They're charging $100 for a triple album. Like, it's gotten ridiculous. At least and if you scour the internet, a lot of times you can get those Black Sabbath box sets for $100. They're like 5-6 albums, tour programs, posters. I mean, they give you a ton for your money. So I don't think Black Sabbath is the problem with the Super Deluxe. I think it's there's a handful of bands that they assume their collectors are wealthy, or
Right.
they're in their 50s and 60s and have excess income. And we all know who those bands are. And
Yeah.
I mean, wait till you see what happens with Led Zeppelin. Here's my thought process of what's going to happen. Right now, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones, for the most part, you cannot buy an analog version of their album, or Pink Floyd. All of them are high-res digital files. So what their plan is probably to do is to come out with the one steps for these albums, but instead of charging the normal $125 for a one step, I guarantee you they're going to jack it up to $150 or $160 and say the reason why is because it takes so much to get the Beatles master tapes out of the vault, all the insurance involved, we have to charge a little bit more. So they're going to charge $150. And what they're going to do is they're going to get every Led Zeppelin fan, every Beatle fan, and Pink Floyd fan that wants a true analog copy to buy these one steps. And imagine saying to the Beatles in the 80s, imagine looking at Paul McCartney and said, in 30 years, we're going to sell a version of Sgt. Pepper that costs $150. And it's going to say, oh, how many discs is it going to be? It's going to be one disc. It's going to be one disc, Super Deluxe, one step, $150 per album, which Van Halen did it, and Van Halen sold out. So Van Halen collectors spent essentially $1,300 on the David Lee Roth catalog as one steps. And they probably printed, pressed 10,000 copies of each album. So think about 10,000 copies times $1,300. This is a way for the bands to get an enormous amount of money. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not an audiophile, but I have audiophile records. The reason why I say I'm not an audiophile is just because there's people that are much more advanced than I am and have $10,000 turntables and, $3,000 styluses. And I'm nowhere near that.
Yeah, the Beatles and Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd, I mean, they all need the money. So, I mean, I can sympathize there because their records have not traditionally sold well. So I have no problem because I want to support those bands. I mean, they're,
they're broke.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so we're after 8 o'clock. So how about we, first of all, welcome everybody who is watching in, all 5 people. But
no, we have 15.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad that we have all 6 of us here tonight, actually, because we've got a real fun discussion ahead of us talking about our Ultimate Load album mix. And so what I thought we could start out by doing is just kind of going around and talking about the methodology that we use to determine how we were going to compile our list. Some of us may have more songs than others on our Ultimate Load album. But we'll talk about why we chose what we did. And I'm going to go just based on my screen. I know it's a little bit different on the live feed, but for me, it looks like we're going to have Gary go first, then Chris, then Brandon, then Josh, then Aaron, and then myself. So
perfect.
No pressure. No pressure, Gary. No
I
pressure.
feel like I'm always going first. Okay, so we're just talking. We're not giving our songs, right?
Yeah, we're just saying, how did you come up with your list? I mean, what was the process, the thinking process that went into?
What I did was I went through, re-listened to the albums, picked, handful of songs. I think kind of what I started to do first was notch off a few songs, saying, okay, I'm pretty sure this one won't make the cut kind of thing. And then I narrowed it down from there. And then I tried to get a nice mashup of songs that I thought would make for a good listen. And I didn't want it to be too long because I think that was one of the problems with these albums is that they were too long. That was a whole problem, as Josh had said, with the whole CD era. It's like, just because you can put all these songs on here doesn't mean that you necessarily should. You should take the best out of them and make a good album. So on my list, I narrowed it down to 10 songs because I thought, 10 songs is enough for an album, especially these songs. Most of them are, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes long. So any more than that, it's just going to be, in my mind, I know Aaron doesn't agree with this, but it just makes it for too. I think when I listen to a record, when it's done, I should say, man, that was great. I want more. I don't want to be like, well, okay, that's finally over. I listen to a great record. It should leave me wanting more. That's how I should feel when I'm done with the record. So, and I try to pick it so it flows somewhat. And, you guys might all disagree with them, but that's fine. I picked it how I thought it had a nice flow to it. So that's how I went.
All right. We got Art Room Records joining us. So thank you for
Hey, Joe.
Joining the live stream here. Chris, you want to get into your?
Yeah. I get what Gary is saying, and it makes total sense. I was at 14 songs, and then I went down to 13. And the reason being is that I feel like with these two albums, there's so much diversity in the music that I wanted to kind of represent all those different styles in my Ultimate Load album. And over the last couple of years or so, I've been becoming more familiar with these records. Like I said before, I actually like these records a lot more than I did when they first came out. So I kind of knew right away, all right, these are most of the songs that I want to include in my album. And I definitely knew that there were some throwaway songs that when it comes on, I usually skip for whatever reason. I just don't like it. So thank God for Spotify, because what I did is I put my list on Spotify. And as I was saying before, I just looked at it as an album, and I've been listening to it in my car over the last week or so and sort of tweaking it, kind of going for a good flow of fast and slow and kind of what I wanted to hear in an album. So that's kind of what I did. And, I think it's a pretty good list.
All right.
Nice.
I love
Jasmine, nice
my
to
granddaughter was watching. I wanted to
see
say
you.
hi.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And Basil.
Now I can't cuss.
See, Basil's here, so now we got to. All right, keep the language in check, gentlemen.
She'll go to sleep in a minute. So.
Yeah. All right, Brandon, what went into making your list?
Well, I mean, a lot of the same things that you guys have already said. I think the one thing that I kind of thought about it was with kind of the title of Ultimate Load. Well, what I kind of thought was, if I were going to put out an album where I was really trying to consolidate those two albums, like what would be the factors, of course, that would go into consolidating it to one album? And so the two things that came, or the main thing that came to mind is, I would want half of it to be the hits and the things that were fantastic that everyone kind of knew and that was so radio friendly and made the albums huge. And I want half of it to be some of the B tracks that people never paid attention to. So if someone had never heard either one of these albums, that I wanted my list to be one that would give them a taste of, what was big and what was popular and what they should have heard if they would have gotten into the album to any degree. So initially I tried to put my tracks at 10. It ended up going to 11, but I really do have it split between about 50% bigger known songs and then the other 50% B tracks that I think everyone should hear off the album.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a good idea. Chris, I really like your idea when you put all your songs there on Spotify. That's, if this would have been a few years back, I would have put them all on a cassette mixtape. That would have been a great way to do that.
I feel like I'm important and I know a lot about music when I do that. I'm like, wow, Chris, you really did a good list here. This sounds perfect. And then I'm like, no, but it's kind of a cool feeling you're almost like creating something like a mad scientist in a laboratory. And I don't know. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
So for me, I went a different route. I went if I was the record producer of this album. First off, I think Bob Rock did a fantastic job with the Black Album and an even better job with Motley Crue 94. But he did a terrible job on this album. He was way too close to the band. Listen to the drum sound on Motley Crue 94 and listen to the drum sound on this album and tell me that he did the same job. I don't think he did. Not that this is a bad album, but I think that he was too close to the band. And I wish, Rick Rubin, when Metallica did Death Magnetic, they came in with 14 songs. He said, that song's good. The rest is terrible. Come back when you're ready. And he sent them on the road. And I wish Bob Rock, because a lot of these songs are fantastic, but I wish Bob Rock had said, go play these songs live and narrow down the 10 best songs. So I went with, what if I was going to make ultimate Metallica album in the sense that it would just compare to the first 5 Metallica albums. So all killer, no filler. And that's kind of where I went. Now, I left off a lot of my favorite songs because I went more for these are the songs that I think are going to reach the widest audience. These are the songs that I think are the most accessible to people. We all, I love the song Fixer. There's a reason why a lot of people don't know the song Fixer. Because it doesn't resonate with as many people as a song as Fuel does, right? So I just think that that's the standpoint that I went. And I don't mean to disparage. I'm not trying to disparage the album by saying that Bob Rock did a bad job. I just think that he was too close to the band. I think that some of the songs, we could have had a more concise album. And I think that's what I'm going for. Now, that being said, I don't want these songs to disappear. I wouldn't want them to go off into the ether and we never have them. I would love to have them as almost like a B-sides compilation. Let's make a killer album and then let's make an album for the fans of the tracks that didn't make the album. But my ultimate load is just all killer. Boom, 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 boom. Even though some of my favorite songs are not on there.
And the main reason people don't know about Fixer, it was the last album on here, and most people probably didn't make it to the end.
It's a long album, right? Last song, it's long. Like Gary said, it's exhausting. Some of these albums in the 90s were exhausting. Listen to an album like Dirt. It's not long. Or listen to an album like Facelift. It's not long. But as the 90s progressed, they were like, well, we gotta make this worthwhile. We've got to make these albums over an hour. Metallica look at this, over 78 minutes of music on the hype sticker. My favorite albums from the 70s are 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
Double. So this is probably longer than most double albums from the 70s. I bet you if we go look at the track listing of, many of our favorite double albums from the 70s, it's not 78 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
All right, that's my opinion. There you go.
Great job.
All right, Aaron.
Well, I have a totally different view on this than you guys. And when I was a huge Metallica fan, and I loved I was into them since Ride the Lightning, and I've just always loved them. When Load came out, I absolutely loved it. I was one of the people who was sticking up for it, and I've always liked it a lot. And to me, in the 90s, I was doing construction work. So, for 2 decades, I was did masonry work, and we'd be, working our jobs, and we would look for the CDs that were long, so we wouldn't have to flip them so much. So I actually like the long ones. And actually, when you're working, they fly by. When you're just sitting around, they can be a little long. But it was actually good for me. And, then I wouldn't have to, stop what I was doing and go flip the records so often, flip the CDs. So I appreciate the long albums if they're good all the way through. And on these albums, usually Metallica takes a few years between albums. And on Load and Reload, there was only 1 year. And there's a reason for that. And I think that Reload, except for a couple songs, was just the tracks that didn't make it on Load. And they just kind of made an album out of it. And I think it was I think the first Load album was the album, and they just said, we have all these extra songs. There's a couple really good ones. We're just gonna throw them out there to make some, to make another record real quick.
Right.
This is how often do they ever put a record out in a year? Metallica, like another record,
Right.
long one like this. So to me, I think Load is miles better than Reload. I think Reload is like when you buy a deluxe version of Abbey Road and they have the bonus double album that goes with it, kind of thing. That's what to me Reload was. It wasn't really a fully realized kind of if you get what I'm saying. So what I did is I went through this and I made a list. I just put my favorite songs and I split it into 4 sides as if you were buying a double record. And so I got 16 songs, 4 per side, and it'd be a 16 song CD, which, for me, when I was working, doing construction work, I would have loved it. Because I don't have to flip the record and, take off my gloves, stop what I'm doing, and then get yelled at, come on, hustle. I don't have to do that. I just play it out. So, like I love like Deep Purple and rock, but I wouldn't have played that while we were working because it was too short. Instead, I'd play Load or something like that. So I don't have to. So that's just one other thought. Not that your view of the shorter record is wrong, because that's great too. When I'm sitting down just listening, that's how I like it as well. And you're right, with 10 songs, pretty good, except for Kill 'Em All. I like that to be the 12 songs with Am I Evil and Blitzkrieg. Every time I hear that, when those songs aren't on it, I kind of like feel like I'm missing something. But so that's just how I made my list. And one other thing, I appreciate them doing all the different styles. But to me, I don't like James Hetfield's voice when he does the acoustic country stuff as much. For me, it has a weird whiny quality, which a few of his other songs, one of his big hits had that right off the bat. It just kind of sounds real whiny to me. And I like the more tough Metallica sound. So that's why I omitted a couple really big hits off my list when we get to it. And I'll kind of explain that.
Okay.
Aaron, can I ask you a question about his voice just because we're on that? What do you feel about when he adds those little inflections, like he adds a little, like a extra?
I don't mind it so much, but I've noticed it's almost like he's parodying himself. Like he'll do that in concert. He will be singing a song and he'll kind of like joke around with the lyrics, and it kind of bugs me when he does that. And then it kind of makes me get that feeling when he does that, like it's kind of like he's parodying himself a little bit. But I like the great vocal style, but I don't dislike it. I don't hate it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, can you give us a demonstration on what Aaron's talking about?
Well, yeah, what he's talking about is around this time, James Hetfield started going, ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah, yeah, ooh, ah. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Ooh,
he does do it in
which I desire. Ooh, yeah.
Some of the songs, every once in a while, he'll have a and it's out of nowhere. It's like,
and I'm gonna disagree a little bit with Aaron. I love Aaron, but I like when James Hetfield sings the more country ballady type stuff, because I think he's got a great voice, and I think that's what separated Metallica from like Slayer and Anthrax and Megadeth, because James could actually sing.
Oh, I think Joey could sing.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, but
I can't really throw in there.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have thrown Anthrax in there. But,
Joey can sing. There's no doubt.
But I mean, I can't really see Dave Mustaine doing ballads.
He's listed. Different thing. I agree.
Yeah.
But to me, when Metallica, it just kind of throws me off. And I appreciate they're doing it, but I don't. Those are the songs I skip if I ever skip any, which is rare for me to skip a song to begin with. So I'm usually listening on vinyl. So.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind that so much. It's the when he does start whiny stuff.
Yeah.
That's you made a good point.
One giant hit, and right from the first line, I just throw it. It makes me cringe, and it's one of you guys' favorites. I know, and won't be on my list.
Aaron's gonna hate my list.
Yeah, exactly.
No, there's no way. I like them all. Even the songs I didn't put on, and I like a lot less. I don't hate any of the songs. I like all. I like Lulu. So I mean, there we go.
Ooh.
I feel like my list is gonna have the least credibility of anybody here, just because I came so late to the Metallica game. But I will say the first 2 Metallica albums that I had on CD were back in the 90s. I had the Black Album and I had Load. Those are the only 2 Metallica albums I had. And so basically I'd never really explored any of their earlier catalog, but for me, I wasn't familiar with Reload, so I mean, I knew what I liked on Load, and then I went through Reload, and I don't have near as many songs from Reload as I do on Load, but yeah, I took the songs I liked on Load, and if there was something from Reload that I thought was comparable, I just picked those. So let's get into our albums then. We're going to start with Gary. Gary's going to go through his Ultimate Load album. And then we're just each going to go through what we picked and why we picked them.
All right, Gary, pick the right songs, buddy. Pick the right songs.
Don't pick that whiny song that Aaron hates.
I know.
I guarantee it.
We're all judging you, Gary. You're the first one.
You're Bob Rock.
Yeah.
I won't. I'm not going to get into the songs too much, but okay. Here's the order I picked on side one. I feel like, this is a no-brainer. Fuel is like the best opening track off of these two albums. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that's like the first thing I knew when I went through this was Fuel is going to be my opener. And then I want to kind of make it a little change of pace, like I said. So I went with the song Ronnie. I like that song, the whole, lost my way this bloody day, and the way it's got lyrics like Pearl Jam's Jeremy or something, but it's got this Ted Nugent guitar line, like a stranglehold guitar line going through it. So I really like that. And then number 3 is King Nothing. I mean, I don't really need to talk about that song. You guys know that. 4, I picked Better Than You. For one thing, it's like one of the few songs on here that it starts out with just the drums. And even though I do kind of agree with Josh, I'm not super crazy about the drum sound on here, but I do like that drum, that little drum beat he has going on when he starts that song. That's kind of cool. And I also like that voice that's like in the chorus, the second voice that's going better than you, like through some megaphone or something. And then to close out, side one, I've got Until It Sleeps, just because I think that's a great song. I don't know, maybe that's one you're talking about, Aaron. I know you've got a couple to date, but I just think that's a really cool one to close out side one. I'm picturing this as a record, since that's what we do. Side 2, I am starting out with Bad Seed, which I really like that song a lot, actually. And it almost, to me, the guitar sounds like ZZ Top. You guys were talking about, kind of writing songs in different styles as opposed to just covering them. They were, showing other influences they had. Number 2, Ain't My Bitch. We all know that one. 3, Memory Remains. Okay, I think going from Ain't My Bitch to Memory Remains is just kind of a nice transition. I don't know why. I just like that. And I love that song. When the first time I heard that song, man, and Marianne Faithfull on there, that voice she's got going through there, and evidently, they got her a few drinks to do that, got her a little buzzed when she did it. And it's just perfect. I mean, that was one of those songs where I was like, how in the hell did they come up with this idea? Because they got this song about like a faded star, some old star living in the past kind of thing. And then they get her on there to sing that. I'm like, man, that was brilliant to come up with.
It's a long way from As Tears Go By.
Yes, yes, very much so. Yeah. It's like, it's jarring. It's jarring when you first hear that song, and you're like, at first you're like, oh my God, that sounds horrible. But then you listen to it again a few times, you're like, that is perfect, man. That just fits in there. Awesome.
It's haunting.
It's haunting. Yeah.
Haunting. Exactly. That's the best description there. And then number 4, I picked another song. This is just kind of like just a good rock song, and that's Poor Twisted Me, because I think that just kind of is a big change of pace. from The Memory Remains. And I like that. It's got a good groove. I think a lot of these songs, that's what's kind of cool. I mean, they're slower paced, but they kind of have a groove going on to them that Metallica didn't necessarily have before. And that's one of them. I like the distorted vocals. That's a change too. And then to close out the album, when albums close out, I like songs that are a little on the epic side. So I picked Bleeding Me because I like the way that song builds. You know, it's got a bit of a time change in there at one point, and it's a little bit longer. And I just think that's a song that once it's done, I'd be like, oh man, you know, that was great. That was a cool way to finish the album. So that was how I went about picking those songs.
Very cool. Well, before we get into any comments or Chris's, Robin Banks has joined us. She says she knows nothing about Metallica, but she's just here to listen to us guys. So, Robin, very cool to have you. And Jasmine Collins wants us to know that the Columbus Blue Jackets just scored a goal and they are up 2-1. So I'm sure she'll be keeping us abreast of that score.
He's a big Blue Jackets fan. I will say that.
Yeah.
My family loves the Blue Jackets.
Yeah. So very cool. All right, Chris, the floor is yours.
This is crazy because my list is totally different than Gary's, but awesome. But that's cool though. I mean, I opened up with I'm thinking in terms of a CD, so I don't have any breaks. I'm going from track all the way to the end. I'm opening up with Creeping Death. No, I'm kidding. I opened up with the same. This is the similar thing to Gary. I opened up with Fuel as well. Fuel is just, I mean, Aaron was saying maybe Reload was the songs that didn't make it on Load. I don't know why they wouldn't have put Fuel on Load because Fuel is freaking killer.
All these songs were written at the same time.
Right.
Except for a couple of them.
Yeah. Well, then I went right from Fuel. I'm carrying that aggression with the song Attitude, which is a great song. And then I kind of changed groove a little bit with The House That Jack Built, which is a killer song. And then Until It Sleeps, which is becoming one of my favorite Metallica songs. I know Josh likes that one too. And then you punch him in the mouth with Ain't My Bitch. And then you come in with Fortune, Fame, Mirror Vein, Gone Insane, but the memory remains. Marianne Faithfull just throwing stuff. I almost said the S word, but whatever.
I feel like James Hetfield, like remains is just a 2-syllable word, but when James Hetfield sings it, it's like a 12-syllable word.
I love that song. There's just like Gary was saying, there's a groove to that song. Every time I hear it, I'm just it's just great. And then I don't know, I picked Wasting My Hate next. I like that song. And then I kind of slowed things down a little bit with Devil's Dance, which I think Devil's Dance is sort of like Sad But True's sister. They're very, very similar songs.
Yep.
And then I know this, I don't know how Aaron's gonna. I feel like I need to make a list that Aaron's gonna like as well. But
he's very judgmental.
Well, here's the thing. Like, and Josh and Jeff and I were talking about this. We're like, if Aaron likes what you're listening to, you're like, yeah, all right, yeah. But anyways, I don't know if I picked The Unforgiven too. I'm sorry, I love that song. I like the slide guitar in it. I like the ballady type stuff. But then you come in with King Nothing. Here's your crown, King Nothing. And then you punch him in the mouth again with 2x4.
Great one.
And then Mama Said, which is totally different. I mean, country ballad. And then I come to my ending song and I'm like, okay, what am I going to end it with? Like Gary was saying, sometimes you want to have like some sort of a longer song. I wanted to pick Fixer as my ending song because I don't know if it gets enough love, but it's a little too long. So I went with a song that's not very long, Carpe Diem, Baby, because I'm like, all right, it means seize the day. So just go off, seize the day. And, you know, that's how we're ending this album. So, yeah, that's what I went with.
Well, we had some of the same picks.
Yeah.
Solid list.
There's so much to choose from.
There is.
Yeah.
Medium, baby.
Yeah, there's like a middle section to that song too. That's the thing with this album. You got to listen to it because there's a lot going on. And like you might say, oh, I didn't even realize that was happening the last time I listened to this album. There's a lot of stuff.
Yes, it's one of those albums that it's really hard just to skim through a couple of songs and try to see what they're like and just skip to the next one. Like you really have to sit and go through each one because there are so many different shifts and things that take place throughout them.
Yeah. We should have had people vote on which list was the best.
Yeah. We can still do it, guys. Watch the video, rewind it, let us know which one's best. It's not going to be mine. All right,
hey, Rich Strickler's on here. Hey, Rich.
Yeah, hey, Rich, how's it going? Well, I appreciate all the people who say, well, I'm not really into Metallica, but I'm watching anyway. I appreciate that. I'm into Metallica, but I know like jack shit about Metallica. So, my list, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. And that's why I'm going last, not just because it's my channel, but because I came, like I said, I came to the party late. So I totally identify with anybody here who's like, I don't know that much about Metallica. Well, I'm just learning. And I have a deeper appreciation for Metallica than I did previously to meeting any of these guys. So, Brandon, what is your ultimate album?
Ultimate Load. All right, and a number of these songs we already kind of talked about, so I won't ramble over the exact same details. But number one, you have to open with Fuel. I think we're just one of the best opening tracks, period. So that's a given. Number two, going to Devil's Dance. I think that's just an awesome, kind of after the pickup of Fuel, Devil's Dance is just kind of getting you into more of the slow groove stuff that's going to be coming, later throughout the album. Not to mention, people that maybe hated Frampton so much for using the voice box on, Frampton Comes Alive. They may actually see it's a cool way to use it inside of Devil's Dance. Third, and I think was it Chris or Gary? House That Jack Built. Who had that as third? Yes. Chris. So that's number 3 on my list too. Again, it's a fantastic track. Then going into King Nothing, and I should have said 12 tracks, 6 on each side. So we're kind of compressing this album a little bit, making it a single disc. So King Nothing is number 4, and number 5 is going to be Bad Seed. We talked about that one a second ago, so that has to be in there. And then number 6, I think, is The Memory Remains. Again, one of I think the best tracks throughout both of the albums. But sometimes I hate when and it seems like this is somewhat frequent, the final track on side 1 seems to frequently be kind of a throwaway, at least with just albums I feel that I've experienced. So I kind of felt like, well, the last track on side 1 is going to be something that, is going to be a killer track that you can't wait to get to. So The Memory Remains is there. So then when we go over to the first track on the second side, Ain't My Bitch. That's what we're going to kick off side 2 with. And again, it's like if you take the time and you kill the music and you turn the record over and, and all of that, the energy needs to kick right back in. And, Ain't My Bitch kind of takes you right there. Until It Sleeps. Then follows Hero of the Day. Again, going back to the hits. The Unforgiven 2. I think so. On the second side, we're going to kind of, slow things down and keep 2 of the slower paced songs on the second side with The Unforgiven 2. The 5th song on the second side, Where the Wild Things Are. That's going to be the 5th song. And then closing out. And literally, Gary, I made this change right as you were talking because the way you described it, I thought that's exactly right. And I moved Bleeding Me from the 3rd track on side 2 to the last track on side 2, because you're exactly right. That's just an epic closer that, the whole album kind of takes you up, keeps you grooving throughout the entire thing. That's a great way to kind of, smooth right out of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to keep me going through the whole weekend now. I'm going to tell everybody that you said that.
So yeah, again, I kind of felt like with that list, as I said in the beginning, I think half of those tracks are a number of the tracks that got the radio play, made the albums really popular. and the other half are just kind of some awesome groove type of stuff that a lot of people just maybe didn't pay that much attention to. So to me, that's the ultimate load right there.
It's a great list.
Awesome. All right. So for me, the changes I would make is one, I would remove all, when I released this album, if I was part of the band, all the photographs would be gone. There'd be no photos of the bands. They would not be in the music videos. You could use anybody for the music videos. We would just focus on the music. Kind of like the Black Album was an all black cover. This would have been all red. And here's the songs I would have done. I would have started with Fuel, just like Gary said, and all of you have said. It is a killer opening track. And obviously, out of the two albums, probably the most successful song. I would go straight into Ain't My Bitch, which is another heavy song. Boom. And then slow the tempo down a little bit with 2x4, more of a kind of a groove metal song. So you've got three just heavy metal songs to start off the album, where a lot of people, the first song they heard was the next song I'm going to talk about. So instead of giving people the illusion that this is a more mellower Metallica by releasing Until It Sleeps first, Fuel would have probably been the first single, but Until It Sleeps is my fourth song on side one. I think it's a fantastic song. I think it's one of Metallica's best. James Hetfield finally started writing, even though Master of Puppets was about alcoholism and theoretically was about himself, this was someone that was obviously writing more music that was, pointing out their own personal flaws. And then I would have ended side one with Hero of the Day, another big hit. I love this song. I don't know if this is a song Aaron's talking about, but it's bright. It's to me, it's a fun song. Yeah. So that's the end of side one. Side two, and I only went with 10 songs, and it's still 54 minutes long. So I'm missing a lot of my favorites. But side two starts off with King Nothing. Like Brandon said, I want to punch you in the face as soon as you flip that album. So one of the heaviest songs on both albums. Go right into Devil's Dance, another song that's got a great groove to it. Memory Remains, like Gary said, one of their best songs, one of their most unique songs in Metallica's catalog. And then end the album with two fantastic songs. The first one would be The House that Jack Built. I could not leave this off the album. I wanted to go with 9 songs, but I could not leave The House that Jack Built off. I just love it so much. And then end it with the best song probably Metallica has written it after the Black Album, Bleeding Me. Gary, you are absolutely right. When I made this list, I knew Fuel was first. I knew Bleeding Me was last. Bleeding Me is such an amazing song. And just the chorus, it's a long song, but I never get sick of it. It's just fantastic. And that is my list.
I feel like I should put Bleeding Me on my list.
You should go listen to it.
What happened? I just flipped around.
My last track is Bleeding Me.
Sorry, you don't get a mulligan on this channel, Chris. It's too late, man.
Hey, Chris, you just added on the second disc with all the outtakes.
Oh, there you
go. Rich Strickler is keeping us up to date on the NFL draft. He's kind of keeping one eye on us and one eye on the NFL draft. And he says that the first 4 picks have all been defense. So, yeah. Well, and another question that came up in the chat is, what is your favorite opening track on a Metallica album?
That's a good question.
That's a fantastic song.
Fire with Fire.
Yep, that's mine too. Or Blackened.
Blackened
is the end.
Oh, yes. Blackened.
Blackened is the best song of Injustice for All, I feel. Yeah.
What's the song?
So Jeff, when you were away, I said, don't tell me any spoilers on the NFL draft because I'm recording it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about Battery?
Yeah, somebody already voted for Battery. I'm trying to see who that was.
As a kid, I thought it was about a battery.
Our Room Records voted for Battery, but Brandon, what would yours be?
It'd be hard not to go with Blackened.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the opening track on Hardwired?
That's probably why we can't remember it, Brandon.
Wasn't it Hardwired or something?
If you can't, Brandon, if you can't remember it, it wasn't a good song.
No, it was a good song. I think it was Hardwired.
Yeah, I guess it was Hardwired. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I couldn't remember if it was Atlas Rise or not. They opened a concert with Atlas Rise. That's where I'm getting confused.
Yeah, I'm just busting.
Yeah, I said Hardwired about 5 times. They're like, he doesn't know shit. He's pulling it
I don't
out.
have Hardwired.
What was
It is
the opening
Hardwired,
track on
okay?
Saint Anger?
I may not know about Metallica, but I know enough to know Hardwired is the first track on that album. All right. Anyway, we're getting off track here. So, Aaron, we've all been waiting for your list to legitimize the rest of our list. So
I'll do mine, then I will talk about the song or two that I left off for a reason too. Maybe, if you would like. If not, then I won't. So everyone's been going to a certain song thinking that's the one, but it's not it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Just don't put Ronnie on your list.
I like
Just
Ronnie.
kidding. I'm kidding.
I like
Who's
that
on
song.
my list?
Oh, okay. Well, sorry.
So, of course, when I first heard these records, like everyone, I heard Fuel when Reload was coming out, and that is an amazing song. And then, so it's got to start it off. It's a great opener. That's my starting song. So I split this into 4 songs per side. It'll be just like the records are with 4 sides. So I got Fuel, then I go right into Ate My Bitch, which I love. 2x4 to get that groove going, and then the House of Jack Built ends my first side. So I kind of, I follow the Load album, but add in some Reload into it is what I did. So my second side, I start with Until It Sleeps, which is one of my very favorite songs. Metallica does. Probably my favorite from both of these records, actually. I love Until It Sleeps. Up next, I have Devil's Dance, which I think is better than Sad But True. I know that's like my second favorite song on Reload. I absolutely love Devil's Dance. Then number 3, I go King Nothing. Great song, big hit. And then follow it up with Hero of the Day, which is very underrated, even though it was a hit. I love that song too. So my side 3 starts out with actually my second favorite song from Load, which no one's had on their list, which is Cure. And I absolutely love the groove of that song. I think it's an amazing song. And when I first heard Load, that was my favorite right away. I don't know why, it just grabbed me. I love the song Cure. And then I went from that to Bleeding Me. So I don't finish it with it, but I love Bleeding Me. Then I put Poor Twisted Me, which I absolutely love, and Wasting My Hate, ended with a bang on side 3. So side 4, got some Reload going on this side. I got Better Than You starting it out. Love that song. And then The Thorn Within. Then I'll go to Bad Seed, which I think is a very underrated song on Reload. I love Bad Seed. And I'm going to end it with the most epic song on either of them, The Outlaw Torn, which is a really cool mellow song. Then it just kicks in at the end. It gets really heavy and fast, which I absolutely love. The Outlaw Torn. I think it's an amazing song. And a lot of the songs on Reload, I kind of thought the lyrics were a little weaker. Like, what was that song? Let me look. It was
Ronnie?
No, I like Ronnie. I almost put it on. Prince Charming. I don't like the lyrics of Prince Charming much. So, but the song that surprised you guys that I didn't, if you notice, I didn't put a song that all of you guys put on here. And it just, I don't know why. It's always been my least favorite song on Load, and it's The Memory Remains. And I think the first line, the memory remains, sounds like he's crying, like whining kind of, and it just kind of continues through it. And it just is always and it just kind of bothers me for some reason. And I do like Marianne Faithful, but that, like you were saying, it was annoying at first. It actually has gotten worse to me over the years. I can't deal with it. But that song is my least favorite song, even though it's a big hit. And so that's, I told you I'd have kind of a surprise in there. But a lot of people love that song. It's great if you love it. Just for me, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard a little bit. Even though I still like it, it's just not my favorite on these. So
my favorite part though is Gary started off his review of that song saying the first time you hear it, you're like, this is annoying, but then you're like, this is amazing. Aaron goes, this is annoying, and then it got worse.
And I understand why people like it. It is unique for Metallica. It was a big hit and everything. It's just for me, I don't like. That's why I don't like a lot of emo singers, because I don't like the whiny vocals style. And I feel like that has that in that song all through it. And some of his other songs kind of got that at this point. But I do like the music of it, and I think it's, so I'm just one, I'm in the minority, I know. So that's my list.
I tell you what though, Aaron, it's kind of cool. Like you said, Cure was like your favorite song or your first favorite song, and to me, that's one of the songs I like the least off of, probably my least favorite song. It's like the first thing I'm thinking right now is that if Aaron thinks it's that great, I need to go back and listen to it again.
Definitely. Even listening to it, I listened to it on Tuesday. I was drinking all my beers, and I didn't realize it was Cure coming out. I was like, oh wow, this is the one. This has got to put it. I was like, oh, it's Cure, of course. So
seriously, I'm going to go back and listen to it again because I haven't, and really pay attention to it.
Brandon, take that with a grain of salt because Aaron also likes Lulu. So, just gonna throw it out there.
I like the music, Lulu.
There's no converting there.
Yeah, but I do like the music. I think there's some really heavy stuff, especially the last song of Lulu is really good, and there's a couple of things in there. But
he was also listening to these albums while he was operating a jackhammer.
Yeah.
So how well he heard them?
I was shoveling mortar up on the scaffold. So
he's doing masonry work.
Yep, mason. My dad was a brick mason, so I did that. I've done that for most of my life. That's why I'm all broken down now.
That's hard work, man. That's what my father-in-law did.
I am really interested to hear Jeff's list.
Yeah, let's bring it on, Jeff.
King something. Let's hear it.
All right, King Nothing.
Let's go. Let's go, baby.
No, King something.
Yeah, King something.
Okay, this is Jeff here.
Just don't open up with Ronnie, Jeff. Don't open up with Ronnie.
Don't patronize me. All right. Anyway, okay. All right, so my number one track, give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, it's just it begs to be an opening track. So, I mean, I know, I think pretty much everyone here picked that, except for Aaron. Is the opening track.
I did.
Did you? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, I'm going along with the rest of the crowd. So Fuel, number one. Number two, House That Jack Built, because I think that's a perfect second track. And then I'm going to go with Ain't My Bitch. Feels like a great, like after you kind of settle down with House That Jack Built, then Ain't My Bitch kind of picks things up again. Then number four, Memory Remains. Number four. I do it slightly better than my Louis Armstrong. Memory remains. All right, anyway, number five, Until It Sleeps, and number six, I am going to go with Bleeding Me. So that is going to be side one. That's going to be the last track on side one. I'm going to open side two with King Nothing. Number 8, I'm going to go with Devil's Dance. I think that's a great second track. Number 9, I am going to go with The Unforgiven 2, part 2. Number 10, I'm going to go with Poor Twisted Me. Number 11, Wasting My Hate. And then number 12, The Outlaw Torn.
Nice.
So I got four tracks from Reload, the rest from Load. But those were just the standout tracks from Reload on there.
So what songs did none of us pick? Did anybody pick Thorn Within?
I did.
Somebody did.
They did.
I did. Well, a bunch of the ones on Reload, nobody picked.
I don't think anyone picked Slither.
No.
No,
no one picked Slither.
Prince Charming, nobody picked.
Yeah, Prince Charming.
Low Man's Lyric.
Low Man's Music.
Low Man's Lyric. That's about it.
What about Attitude? Did somebody pick Attitude?
I did.
Yep.
That was my second song.
Okay.
Anybody pick For Whom the Bell Tolls?
No, nobody did.
I know I ended with Bleeding Me.
And all the way through for me, if I was really doing the best of all these.
Huh.
I feel like a jackass now. I ended with Carpe Diem Baby.
Well, I keep waiting. I'm like looking at all the comments. I'm waiting for somebody to be like, Jeff, your list rocked. Wait, you knocked it out of the park, Jeff, but I don't see that. So
you gotta give it a minute. It's delayed. That's why.
Yeah.
I guarantee
that's
you.
probably why. I'm sure it'll come.
No fix.
I like everybody's lists, and they were good for all different reasons, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, Unforgiven 2 is one of the biggest hits. And the only reason I left it off was because of the mentality that I was trying to create something that, you know, was unique. But I will tell you that Better Than You was very close to being on my list, Gary. You picked that, didn't you? Better Than You?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that song is killer. And yeah, it was hard leaving some of these songs. Yeah, you too, Aaron. Yeah, it's hard to leave some of these songs off. I tried to do the same thing with you.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Go ahead.
I was just saying I tried to do the same thing with Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 this week to just for my own personal, and that was hard too. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
5 songs. I love those albums. I'm one of the few that absolutely love the Illusion.
Yeah, I love them too.
It's funny because people do the exact opposite with a White Album. People are always taking the White Album and being, well, what if you could pick a single album? What would what tracks would you pick for the White Album? So, it's kind of fun that you've got 2 separate albums and we're trying to make them a double album. But yeah. Well, shit. Now what do we talk about now? We breezed through that list. We've been under an hour getting through that list.
Well, I'll ask this question. What did how do you guys feel like these albums have aged? Like I was saying before, I don't know if we were recording before, but I feel like these albums have aged really well, and I like them a lot better now than I did when they first came out.
Yeah, I think they've aged. Oh, no, go ahead, Aaron.
Like saying, I think these albums Load, I think, is all right. I've never disliked anything. I mean, I've always loved it. With because I feel like it's a lot of throwaways from Load. But I just say one thing now. The reason I didn't put Unforgiven 2 is because it's my least favorite of the 3 Unforgivens. I actually like the first one a lot, and Unforgiven 3 is my favorite of them. And I do like Unforgiven 2. I just didn't. It's not as good as the others, I don't think. So that's all. That's what I was going to say earlier when Josh was there. So sorry. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, no, but before I say that, I mean, one of my biggest complaints about the Unforgiven 2 was the fact that I thought it should not be named the Unforgiven 2. It should have been just a completely different title for that song. But I mean, the song itself, I absolutely love. But Chris, what you were saying about how well they've aged, I think one of the reasons why they have is that they weren't connected to any quote unquote specific movement that was taking place at the time. It's not thrash, it's not hair, it's not grunge. It's just kind of like rock and roll to a certain degree. Yeah. And so I think just by not attaching itself to a specific time period or a specific movement, it's going to age well for years and years to come.
And I was going to say this too. Josh and I were talking about this. When they brought Bob Rock in, Bob Rock wanted to make an album with the Black Album, and it sort of bled into Load and Reload, but make albums that are like rites of passage for people. Like when your kids discover music, they're going to discover Led Zeppelin 4. They're going to discover, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. They're going to discover Deep Purple, Machine Head, Back in Black. Like the Black Album is one of those albums now. And I don't know if he was as successful with Load and Reload, but I think that's the mentality that Bob Rock was going in with it. And I think, Brandon, you kind of mentioned this, is that it's not pigeonholed into a genre, which is a good thing. So it's going to stand the test of time.
Well, and I'd like to talk about what Brandon talked about, because I think you made such a fantastic point. So I think back at that time period. So you think about when this album came out, which was what, 96, I think?
96.
So they had already seen the failures of their peers, right? So Motley Crue 94 bombed. Many of the metal bands released what they called the grunge album, right? And saw that it failed. Anthrax had released Sound of White Noise, and even though it initially did well, they got kicked off Elektra after the next album because they were expecting another Metallica, so Metallica was probably noticing this when they were recording. Alice in Chains was almost at their end, right? Like they had done Unplugged when they had the Dog album, the Tripod album, and Unplugged, and they were still super successful, but that was almost the end of of grunge also. So they were probably seeing all this and saying, well, what direction do we go? Right? Like we can't, we're not going to try to copy Alice in Chains. We're not going to try to copy the Black Album. We got to keep moving forward. And I think you're right to a certain extent. They made a rock album. And, you know, I do think that, you know, Motley Crue 94 was a rock album, but it unfortunately, because Vince Neil had gone and because people had a particular thought process of Motley Crue, it wasn't successful. And the reason why I bring up that album so much is I really do feel that album is a masterpiece. I really do. Like, if you go listen to it now, it holds up so well. And I think that's the thing. These albums hold up really well too. I think Bob Rock did do a good job. I'm not trying to disparage him, but I do think if they had gotten a Rick Rubin or got somebody different that said, you guys are the mighty Metallica, you know, like, you guys are the biggest band on the planet. Let's take these songs, some of these songs, and let's refine them. And maybe Fuel is on. I think Fuel being on Load would be a huge difference, right? Like, I really do. I think Load needed Fuel. And I think that, and I'm just talking about the public perception. We all love this album, but the public perception is they took a dip. And, you know, that's just my thought process.
Yeah.
Well, there were 5 years between the Black Album. The Black Album came out in 1991, right before grunge hit. And then 1996, grunge was gone. Like, you know, there was an entirely, like, grunge was, for all intents and purposes, dead. And you started having shit like Smash Mouth and like all these bands, I'm trying to think, all these like sort of like the late 90s.
Limp Bizkit.
Limp Bizkit, and like the new metal was coming out. So Metallica kind of sat out the entire grunge era, and then you've got Load and then you've got Reload. So, it was sort of, I don't know. I wonder what a Metallica grunge album would have sounded like if they had, put out an album in those intervening years. But
you can hear some grunge on this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you can hear some grunge elements. You could see that they were influenced, but it's not a grunge album. But go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, like Where the Wild Things Are is what I was saying earlier. Like, I so hear Alice in Chains up and down in that song all the time. But I was going to say, I think one of the things maybe that played from the positive when we were talking about, kind of Lars's attitude and all that stuff that, he kind of had during that time frame, which I'm sure James had to some degree as well, just not quite as public. But I think it's just that Metallica was also one of the few bands that was brave enough to just say, we're feeling something different and we want to try something different. And I think with a lot of bands, they get so locked into that, like, this is the formula, this is what has worked. And then the labels are on top of them. Don't dare change it. Just go back and do the same thing you've done 5 times already. But eventually we know all that stuff is going to burn out. And I just think I would just say like a Lars and James standpoint, I just really felt like they were one of the few that were just really had the guts to say, there's a lot of different things that we feel within music, and we're going to go a different route. We don't care if it bombs or not. And they've always taken that gamble on themselves, and they've won with it. Nine times out of 10, they win taking that gamble.
I think to piggyback onto that, when you think about it, they also, so they release this album that's kind of different, maybe appealing to different people. They were also on Lollapalooza that year when Load came out, which was kind of a big deal. Lollapalooza was mostly more alternative type bands up until that point. I mean, Metallica was the biggest band that had played that tour. They headlined that. And, that was one of the things they were doing, seeing who all do we appeal to? Can we appeal to some other people too?
Yeah.
I saw them at that Lollapalooza, and it was Metallica, and Soundgarden, the Ramones were there, the Violent Femmes. I can't remember beyond that, but it was they were trying something different a little bit and kind of saying, hey, we're going to do what we want to do. I mean, I don't know. I kind of give them credit for that. Yeah. I remember they asked too, like in the James, he's like, so how many people here, this is the first time you've ever heard Metallica or you've ever seen us. Then he asks how many people have seen us before and how many people have seen it this many times, just kind of getting a reaction. I mean, why is he asking? Because he wants to know, are we expanding our audience? Who are we appealing to? I don't know. I just think they were trying different stuff.
Well, I think you're right, Gary. They were listening to a lot of Soundgarden because there's some major Soundgarden influences on this album. Wasn't this the time too when Lars started to slam Napster around this time?
Yeah.
No, that was I Disappear. That was at 2000.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, that happened right at 2000. So that was about 3 years later.
Oh, okay.
But look at the songs Brandon mentioned before, Garage Inc. Like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. They covered Nick Cave. They covered a lot of different styles of music. When you look at it, they were definitely influenced. And I agree with you, Brandon, about the Wild Things. There's no doubt that Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell, I think, had an influence on all of these bands. There's no doubt they heard Alice in Chains and it affected the entire metal scene. No doubt. But
in a way,
I think Aaron looks like good.
In a way, Alice in Chains was as influential or more than Nirvana for bands, for metal. They kind of, yeah, it was just, that's why I've always liked them so much more. And that's the thing about the song, song Cure almost has that sound too. That's why I like it so much, probably. So sorry to interrupt. I just had to interject before I forgot.
No, I wanted you to go in because I knew you would say something like that, Aaron, because I do feel that, like Soundgarden had such a big Black Sabbath sound, right? I feel like Sabbath really influenced them. But the thing about Alice in Chains is no one sounded like Alice in Chains before Alice in Chains. They somehow molded these melodies, these dark melodies and harmonies, and the way Jerry Cantrell's voice and Lane's voice worked together. It couldn't be duplicated, right? It was just so incredible. So I'm sure that it had to have influenced James Hetfield. Had to.
And I'd rather listen to Alice in Chains than Nirvana. I'm not a huge Nirvana fan.
Yeah, most definitely.
I did hear one thing about Alice in Chains that was kind of interesting. Someone, I don't know where I heard this, but someone said Alice in Chains is Black Sabbath sped up. It's like kind of, but faster. It's kind of what they did, and they kind of reinvigorated music that way. I don't know why. They
definitely have that Sabbath influence.
Yeah. All the grunge bands, I think, really do. Listen to 4th of July by Soundgarden. That is like the greatest Sabbath song that wasn't Sabbath. Like, that's the way I feel. So
yeah.
Jeff, I was really interested with your list because you're a newer Metallica fan, so it was fascinating to see your picks. I really think so. And I think you had great songs.
Great list.
Well, like I said, Load, I was not new to Load. I mean, I had heard Load back in the 90s. I bought the CD and I bought the, the Black album too. So I was already familiar with those, but like Reload, I really had not heard at all before. So it was sort of like discovering those tracks and comparing those against Load. But for me, as a new Metallica fan, having already heard the Black album and having already heard Load, I still prefer those early Metallica albums. Like, I spent a lot of time, Aaron sent me Kill 'Em All on CD. I love that album. I mean, I have to say, if we're just going to open this up into a general discussion about Metallica, I love Kill 'Em All. There's so many great moments on that album. I know a lot of people say, well, Ride the Lightning is great, which, I mean, I agree. But for a debut album to have some songs as strong, Seek and Destroy is amazing on there. The Four Horsemen is great. I mean, there's so many, fantastic moments on there. It's really, I don't know, like anything beyond like Load, I'm kind of like just sort of lukewarm about, because I really, and I'm sure I'm not alone, but I think Master of Puppets is great, obviously, and Justice for All is fantastic. But I mean, that just having discovered the entire discography of Metallica, even though my entry into Metallica was the Black album and Load. I don't know. I don't prefer those albums over their early ones, but I mean and this is just somebody who just recently got deeper into Metallica. That's my own personal.
Well, think about if Led Zeppelin had released Physical Graffiti first. For some people, Kill 'Em All is their best album, right? So you think about if Led Zeppelin released Physical Graffiti first, you might be like, well, man, their first album is the best. They could never top it. Metallica, it's like some people Kill 'Em All is the best. Some people Ride's the best. Some people Master's the best. Some people Justice is the best. And some people Black Album is the best. You don't hear too many others choices. But to have 5 albums that people debate which one is the best, it's incredible,
Yeah.
Well, and then when you go a step further and you look at what are all the albums that are left off, and you see how incredible they are, that's just like such a testament to the amazing catalog they have.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Hit the Lights, I think, is a great album opener. I mean, Motor Breath, just that opening riff is like, holy shit, I've never heard anybody. It's like a galloping, riff, but it's like so fast. And I was like, holy shit, did they record that at a slower speed and speed that up? Which I know they didn't, but it's just like, oh my God, it's like totally like blowing my mind. And even Anesthesia, the bass solo.
That's a great one.
Is amazing. And then like side 2, is great. You got, I mean, I love Phantom Lord. I think No Remorse is great. Just the whole album. And I know, like I say, I haven't spent as much time with Ride the Lightning, but I had Kill 'Em All in my car for like a month straight. And I never expected, I thought of their first, 4 albums, that would be the one I would probably connect with the least, because I figure, well, it's their first album. It's probably, they hadn't developed their sound yet. It's probably a bit more aggressive, more thrash than what I'm used to. But I still find, like, of the first 3 albums, and maybe it's just because I spent more time with Kill 'Em All, but I just have such, I don't know. I really, and maybe it was because I didn't expect to like that album as much as I did, but just all the way through, I love that record,
I'm so happy you said that. When I sent that to you, I was like, I have a feeling this is going to be the one. And I just, because that one really got me really into them. That's like me. I was driving with my friends constantly with that. And we'd all headbang in the car, and we thought Wayne's World stole it from us. That's what we were doing to kill them all. And we're like, what the hell? They must have been watching us and then stole it for their movie, because we were all doing that for the whole Kill 'Em All record. I mean, just nonstop during high school.
I kind of looked like Wayne in high school. I'm not going to lie, guys. I had the same hair.
Here's my thing with Metallica. I think the reason we go to all those early albums is because they were consistently good albums, even up to the Black Album. I think that's got to be considered in that list. Here's my problem with Metallica, and nothing against these albums, but after the Black Album, I'm just going through the discography here. You get the Load and Reload, where the all different styles. That's what we've been talking about tonight. But then they come out, now they come out with Garage Inc., which is like a covers record. You know what I mean? And then S&M. Oh, now we're bringing a symphony in. Again, nothing against these records. But then you have Saint Anger, which I love, but totally different and weird. It's a weird album, but I like it. And then, let's see. Death Magnetic, where it's like, okay, let's bring Rick Rubin in and return to the thrash. Mm-hmm. And it kind of works. I know Aaron really likes that album a lot.
I love it.
Me too.
But then we come out with Lulu, and it's like, okay, where the hell is that coming from? Then they have the whole, what was the movie that they came out with, Through the Never or something like that?
Yeah, Through the Never.
And then now we're coming back to Hardwired, which is a good album too, but it's kind of all over the place. So I guess my point is that Metallica stopped being consistent. It's not that they were coming out with bad albums. It was just like you weren't going to hear Kill 'Em All or the consistency of Master of Puppets. It was like, I feel like they were trying a whole bunch of different stuff, which is not bad, but it's hard for fans to latch on to something. So that's just my take.
Yeah, I've always felt that Death Magnetic would have been perfect right after Injustice for All. Would have been fit right in there between that and the Black Album.
See, here's one interesting thing, though. There's a guy here on YouTube, and I don't remember his name off the top of my head. He has kind of a slender guy, really long hair, has a goatee thing. But what he does is he'll do a lot of videos of what if someone played this person's song, and he'll do all the parts, and great musician. But one of the things that he did was, what if new Metallica was played like old Metallica? And he went and covered a number of songs from Death Magnetic, but played them in the guitar tones of Kill 'Em All. And you would swear it was lost tracks from Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. And it just really made me realize so clearly that on something like Death Magnetic, Metallica was still making the exact same things they were making in the past. They were just playing it at a different tuning. And of course, James' voice and everything, it sounds very different now. But again, the way he did it, not changing tempos or anything, it sounded like vintage Metallica across the board.
And two things. Metallica fell into the trap that Iron Maiden fell into. Death Magnetic suffers for two reasons. One reason is the songs needed to be edited a little bit. Some of them are too long. I know I'm not. Aaron's probably not going to be my friend anymore. But I feel like Death Magnetic needed to, and this is not slamming Death Magnetic, but I feel like the songs needed to be sort of edited a little bit. And I don't know, this might ruffle a few feathers. I don't like Rick Rubin's production on that album. I don't like it. It's jarring to my ears. And I think it was the Sonic Wars, or not Sonic, what were they calling those? Every album had to be louder.
Yeah.
Yeah, the loudness wars.
Yeah.
If you listen to it
Loudness
on
wars.
vinyl, it sounds a lot better.
Yeah, because the CD, I can't listen to it because it's almost too, and it's almost like it goes into the red too much. You know what I mean? They're pushing that Sonic too much, and I don't like it.
I agree
so
with
Rick
that.
Rubin didn't. Oh, sorry, Brendan.
Oh, no, I just said I agree. That's all.
Yeah, Rick Rubin didn't do that. What ended up happening was, because the vinyl pressing, and Aaron showed me this, sounds normal, and they did a Rock Band video game that sounds normal. But when they pressed it on CD, it's basically the difference between the highs and the lows, right? Your ears respond to the difference. And the loudness wars, everything was pushed up. So you don't get that balance of highs and lows. And you're right, the CD is almost unlistenable. And I always dismissed it because of the CD. And then 2 years ago, Aaron said, if you want to remain my friend, you'll go buy it on vinyl. And I did.
I need to get it on vinyl. And just to go through the track listing, I love That Was Just Your Life. I like The End of the Line. I like Broken, Beat, and Scarred. The Day That Never Comes. I feel like that song goes on a little too long. I like it.
Favorites.
All Nightmare Long is okay. Cyanide I like. The Unforgiven 3 is killer. The Judas Kiss, Suicide and Redemption. It's like, okay, we need another instrumental, so we're going to do that. But all right. And then it ends with My Apocalypse, which is strong too. But maybe to kind of go along with what all y'all are saying is that maybe I just need to get it on vinyl.
Yes, I would agree. It sounds 100 times better.
Yeah.
Well, we got
or you can
Dwayne
go buy
St.
that
John.
Rock Band video game.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We got Dwayne St. John. I'm just going back to some of the comments. He said, in his opinion, Hardwired is their best album since And Justice for All. John, the Dark Wizard Room, says Saint Anger took everyone by surprise, and many he knew were against it. So, yeah, I mean, Metallica's had their peaks and valleys, and people have either stuck with them or not. And probably the people who bought the CD, Death Magnetic, and the people who now own it on vinyl, there's probably some disparity there about the quality of those recordings. But,
bring
Jason
Jason Newsted back.
Are we going to hear anything new from Metallica in 2022? I mean, it's been a while since Hardwired came out. Are there any rumblings about?
Yeah, there is, but I bet you it's next year. Metallica takes forever to release something, but they've been recording, but I bet you it's next year. But that being said, I really love the Kirk Hammett solo album.
Yeah, really good.
I've listened to it 10 times.
It's great. And there's a difference between that and Jason Newsted, where they had the problems with that. Because Kirk Hammett was just putting that out as a solo, and Newsted was trying to get a whole new band and go on tour. And I think that's why there's the difference in them feeling towards Kirk Hammett doing that. A lot of people think that, it's kind of the same thing, but he wasn't putting a band and going on tour and all that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Art Room Records said, I have a blackened pressing and an OG. I'm scared to listen to the OG one. Do any of you have either copy, or have you compared the blackened pressing to the original pressing? Is there a difference in sound or quality?
Which
And Justice for, I don't know.
I think he's talking about Death Magnetic.
Probably Death.
Yeah.
I have an OG.
I think
Mine's an OG. I bought it right when it came out. And I like it. I love it.
Yeah, I have an OG and a blackened, but my OG is sealed, so I haven't listened to that. I haven't spun that.
We have the OG. I've never heard the blackened. And I've come to find the blackened ones don't sound as good as their other presses in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
Metallica has their own pressing plant too. Like they press their own albums, which was really smart of them because the final boom.
And one of the, unfortunately, one of the unanswered questions that we'll never get an answer to is if Cliff Burton had lived, what would Metallica have sounded like? Obviously, on Justice for All, the bass was mixed way down. It was Jason Newsted's first album. And, you just wonder what would Metallica's trajectory have looked like if Cliff Burton hadn't, passed away.
I think Cliff Burton would have kept them more grounded. I think he would have. I don't think he would have allowed Metallica to fuck around. They would have just been on this, like you said, that's a great word, trajectory of. But I think they would have continued on that with the whole metal thrash thing. But I don't know. But Cliff Burton listened to a lot of different styles of music, though, too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
here's what I think. I think that you're right. Cliff Burton did listen to a lot of different types of music, including REM, believe it or not. But James Hetfield went along with the load and reload image thing because Kirk and Lars they were so passionate about it. And it was him against those two because Jason had no voice.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. So here's the things that I think would have been different if Cliff had lived. One, and Justice for All, the band was trying to punish themselves. That's why they made such a progressive album that was so difficult to play. They were just like, we're just going to make it more and more complicated. They even said that years later, they looked back and they were like, fuck, we made these songs that were so complex and so difficult to play. They were just going through it. And instead of like dealing with the emotional pain, they just made very complex progressive songs. So Injustice for All probably would have been dramatically different. The songs may have been similar, but they probably wouldn't have had so many complex changes. Because Injustice for All was so complex, that's why they decided to make a straight, and I always say that the Black Album is like an AC/DC album. What me and Aaron love about Metallica, and a lot of you guys probably love about Metallica, is how the songs change and the tempo changes. And Justice for All was like, no, we're going to make, the Black Album was like, we're going to make Back in Black. AC/DC doesn't have those complex changes in their songs. And I really feel like they just wanted a straight up rock record. Who knows? The trajectory of the band might have been dramatically different if Cliff hadn't died, so who knows? But you're right about one thing, Chris. I don't think Cliff would have ever signed up for makeup and eyeliner and shit like that. I don't see him ever doing that.
Cliff would have still been wearing Misfits t-shirts.
Exactly. And bell bottoms. Yeah.
Well, John the Dark Wizard Rim said Death Magnetic is a hit or miss for me. Maybe if I gave it more time and heard on vinyl, but they need someone refreshing thrash like the earlier. So I think there's kind of a theme among, a lot of Metallica fans, like they want them to go back to the earlier thrash sound of those classic, first 3 or 4 albums, which, I kind of agree with. People still, you take a survey of most Metallica fans, they're going to say, yeah, like their 2 best albums are probably going to be Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. Kill 'Em All is up there. And then, after, unfortunately, Cliff Burton died, it's sort of, I think it's kind of a free for all in terms of, well, do you like it or don't you? Or, do you think they sold out, or do you think they were just trying to, go into different territory like a lot of bands do? But
I want to throw out a term too, I'm going to talk about Pete over at Pete's CD Vinyl World. If nobody's checked out him, he's got a great channel. But I don't know if Aaron and I did a video with him about Metallica or something.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. But Pete said this, and I thought it was perfect. He said that Metallica now is almost doing like what he called, and this was Pete's words, happy thrash. And I think that's a good term, because when you listen to Fight Fire with Fire, it scares the shit out of you. But when you listen to some of these other thrash songs now, he's right. It's almost like this bright, happy thrash. And I kind of like Pete's terminology. So it's almost like Metallica's trying to harken back to that sound, but they're not going to have that youthful energy now, for obvious reasons. Plus the climate, the musical climate has changed as well. So now they're making happy thrash.
Plus,
James
when they
sings differently.
Yeah,
they were struggling to even have food. It was a struggle, and after it became so big, it's hard to get that fire back of that struggle. Yeah, that's why bands start out really strong, and then they change because they've changed personally, because they're no longer struggling to make it. They've made it, and then they can just relax, and it's just just how life goes, kind of.
Yeah, that was a really good thing that Dee Snider said one time from Twisted Sister, when he was talking about writing some of the later albums. And he's like, you have that first album that comes out that you've worked your entire life, and you're young and you're hungry. He goes, but then you get to that point where you're sitting in your mansion poolside with your Ferraris in the driveway, trying to write the next rebellious thrash or hardcore song or hard rock song. And he's like, nothing comes to you because life is just not throwing that stuff at you anymore. And I think that definitely has to be where Metallica is. It's like you're looking to be creative, but you're not looking to conquer. And that's two completely different juices that flow within you.
I think the only thing that would make James Hetfield angry is if he stepped on his kids' Legos on the ground.
Right.
Well, the thing too, and I wonder, because I remember, being in college, and like Metallica was invincible. Anybody who was cool loved Metallica, and we're talking about like through the And Justice for All period. It was like Metallica could do no wrong. And then you had the Black Album, and it's like, okay, well, they're going a little bit commercial. But do you think the some kind of monster documentary like really did some damage to their credibility? Like, oh, they have a therapist now. Like, oh, they're sitting on the couch with a therapist, and they're kind of getting a little bit whiny. And I don't know. I just remember watching that, being like, oh, geez,
Well, that hurt them. Napster hurt them, but they rebounded. So you have to look at it that way. Like, no matter what, they're selling out stadiums now, like by themselves, no opening act. So they obviously, you're right, Jeff, it did hurt them. But, I think if people want Metallica to harken back, they're going to need a new singer. I honestly feel that James can't scream the way he screamed before. Right. And that's why he sings completely different. And they want him to sing this fast-paced thrash. And the older you get, the harder it is to sing that way. I honestly would find a new singer, and I would continue to write music because they physically can do it. I know Lars, so people butcher Lars on the internet in terms of his drumming style now, but he's also an older man. He's in his 60s. But if you want old school thrash, they need a new singer. I'd go get a female singer or someone that's young. And, it's funny, they played with Lady Gaga. That girl's got an amazing voice. I'm not suggesting Lady Gaga. I'm just saying that, go get somebody.
You're saying keep the Metallica name, but get like a female singer?
Oh, yeah. I think they should have got John Bush back in the day. Honestly, I do think that it's James Hetfield cannot sing the way he could in the past. That's just my thought process. If you want old school Metallica, I'm fine with the current state of Metallica. But if you want it to sound like Kill 'Em All or Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, you're going to need a new singer. He can't sing that fast anymore.
They'll never think he can. Again, though, no matter what they do, because Cliff's not there, and his just his style of playing isn't there, and his input.
Yeah. I don't know. Look at the track record of bands that change singers. Priest with Ripper, Maiden with Blaze.
Well, I'm not saying James Hetfield leaves. I'm just saying they add an extra piece.
Oh, they add. So, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want James to leave. Just add to the equation.
Yeah.
Dwayne St. John says they can still play thrash. Just listen to Spit Out the Bone.
Oh, that's great.
Can Lars play that live though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being the devil's advocate here.
Well, in Saint Anger, that's why I liked Saint Anger so much. They had that DVD that came with it, and they went through the whole album in rehearsal. And that's why I like Saint Anger so much, is watching that over and over, drinking beers and getting more into it every time I heard it. And I know Lars had to take breaks between the songs a lot of the times because he was, it was just going crazy, but he can still do it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that was a while ago.
Yeah. Do you think Kirk Hammett is an underrated guitarist, or do you think?
I don't think any of them are underrated. I think everyone thinks they're great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he doesn't get compared to some of the other greats. I mean, he'll never be Gilmour, or he'll never be Mustaine, and I think that's the tough part, is like when you think thrash guitarist, man, Jeff Hanneman, Mustaine, there's some of the greatest guitarists to live, and when I mentioned this to Chris the other day when we were listening to the Kirk Hammett solo album, is Kirk Hammett's one of those guitarists that I don't instantly pick up, oh, that's Hammett, right? Like, Keith Richards when you hear him, David Gilmour when you hear him, Eddie Van Halen when you hear him. They have such a distinctive style and tone that it's like, ooh, that's Kirk Hammett. I don't get that, but it doesn't mean he's not a good guitarist.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lot of that too, is because James, as let's say a rhythm guitar player, is still almost playing as a lead in some many cases. Right. So it's almost like without the duo, it can be hard just to recognize him right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And James is one of the best rhythm guitarists ever. He's just
totally.
Yeah.
He's underrated.
Zep Pearl just said, ironic, I just bought tickets to Lola 2022 just to see Metallica.
Nice.
All right.
They're coming to Boston too, if you guys want to come to Boston.
And there's a great record store there, or a New Bedford called Purchase Street Records. So.
Rick, Chris blew all his money.
You'd have to drag me out.
Exactly. I told Aaron that he has to bring $500 minimum. There's no way that
Yeah,
that's the minimum entry.
Yeah, the next time I come, I need to save up money and just because like we were all saying, you could very easily blow $500 there easily.
Well, I have not just not even being there from that store once. So.
Exactly. Well, I thought when we went to Idaho, I thought like I bought a shitload of records. Like, oh my God, I went hog wild. And I know like Chris, you did too. And then, I go to New Bedford, I go to Purchase Street Records, and holy fuck. I've got like 3 gigantic packages coming tomorrow in the mail. Shit I bought at Purchase Street Records. And that was like, I had to make some sacrifices. There were albums that was like, oh man, I got to put this back. Like it cannot spend any more money. Like Mother's Day is coming up. I got a trip to New York City that's coming up. Like I just cannot, like we're going to have to go without internet or electricity for the next month because of all the shit I bought at, PSR. And I still like, I have no idea, like, and this is like real. And I know my wife's not going to watch this video, so I can speak freely, but like, I have to figure out like a way to smuggle those boxes into the house, because if those boxes show up on my doorstep, she's going to lose her shit when she's like, oh my God, how much did you spend? What the fuck did you do?
Just say they got awesome dollar bins on the East Coast.
Yeah. It's like, and I like totally, but like, and I was like trying to like, I had a week to set the stage. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm purging records. Like I'm getting rid of 50 records, like, don't worry. I mean, that's been kind of like my whole thing this past week is like going through my collection, making room for, those 40 albums or whatever it was that I bought when I was in Massachusetts. But I'm like totally like, holy shit, how am I going to justify this,
Well, it was VCLT for me.
To set the scene,
well, that's what I was going to say. I'm like, oh, well, some of them Josh bought me, because I went with Josh and Chris, and I didn't buy all those records.
Well, give her a couple albums for Mother's Day. Just be like, Happy Mother's Day. Here's a copy of Iron Maiden Live After Death.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's going to be, well, look, Happy Mother's Day. Here is OMD and Psychedelic Furs and Devo.
So to set the scene for anybody that didn't watch Jeff's video, So at Purchase Street Records, they have a basement that nobody gets to go into. And he buys collections. And these are all items he hasn't looked through yet or priced yet. And, at any given time, I went down there one time, he had 20 copies of Synchronicity. It's just album after album. And we're flipping through and just finding gold. And it was incredible. The best part of all was hearing Chris and Jeff go, "You going to buy this?" No. And we wait. And if Jeff would put it down, then Chris would grab it or something like that. You know what I mean? Because it was like, well, if you're not going to grab it, I'm going to grab it. And, and Chris would show me a record. Have you heard of these guys? And I'm like, I bet you Aaron has. Oh, sorry, my earphones stopped. But, it was so incredible to be down there with those guys because I go every week to Purchase Street. I know Roger so well. But that was the funnest part, is just watching you guys find grail after grail after grail. And yeah, you're right, Jeff. Those are 3 large boxes hitting your doorstep. Work from home.
Yeah, and it's one of those places where it's like, and I had showed you guys, before I had made the trip, I made a list of like albums that I was looking for, not necessarily grails. I mean, there were some grails on there, but just because when I get into a record store, I kind of I get so overwhelmed, I forget I don't even know where to start looking for the records that I want. And the 2 grails that I found, the Beach Boys' Smiley Smile and Mono, which is a super expensive record. And then I found OMD, The Best Of, which is $100 record, easily. And he gave me Smiley Smile. I know probably like a $20, he probably charged me $20 for what is, on eBay, at least an $80 record. And he charged me probably $15 to $20 for that OMD Best Of, which, is a $100 record easy, but it's that's the cool thing. I mean, you're not paying eBay or Discogs prices when you go in there. I mean, because maybe if he knows what you have, if he knows, Iron Maiden or, kind of like some hard, heavy or metal shit. But, if you're looking for stuff that's classic rock or synth pop or just stuff that's kind of, off the mainstream, you're going to get a bargain like you wouldn't believe, because he's like, I just want it out of my store. I don't have room for all this bullshit in here. I want the heavy metal stuff and the hard rock and all that. And so I'm like, oh yeah, cha-ching. He gave me, because, okay, so I walked in there and I'm like, okay, I want to spend $200. And I set the stack down of records, on them. I'm like, okay, how much am I in? And he's like, okay, $240. And I'm like, okay. So I put the Sgt. Pepper back, and I'm talking like a Sgt. Pepper original stereo copy. The vinyl was a bit scratched up, but the sleeve was, near mint, like as perfect a sleeve, as you can find. I put that back, and I put the Smiley Smile back, and I'm like, okay, now we're at $200. And he's like, well, whatever. So he throws a Smiley Smile back, and he throws a Sgt. Pepper, and he's like, yeah, $200 even. So basically, like, he gave me the Sgt. Pepper was free. I didn't pay anything for that, which is like amazing. And then the Smiley Smile, like, I can't even believe he gave that. Like, oh my God, like, I can't even believe right now. It's just so, that's the thing about it, is any other record store, they're going to be like, no, I'm not making you a deal. We're not negotiating about this. These records you have, like, no, we're just not. And, Roger, he's like, I don't know, okay, whatever. I got a shitload of records here. That's what you want to spend. Okay. I feel like it was like, well, I don't want to refile these back down. I want to go crawl back down to the basement and have to re-alphabetize this shit. So I'm just going to give it to you. I'm like, holy crap.
Hey guys, hey, I hate to interrupt. I'm getting ready to actually go on a trip coming up. So I got to run and kind of do some stuff with my girlfriend. So I may have to sign off a little early here.
Awesome.
All right, man. It was awesome talking to you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Appreciate you guys having me again, though. Blast as always.
Great seeing you,
Brandon.
All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Good to see you.
All
right.
And Jeff, what I was going to say is I think you did it the right way, man. If you ask for a deal, you're not going to get a deal. Go up there and tell them, this is what I'm looking to spend. And, if he can do it, he can do it. If he can't, he can't. I will tell you that if anyone's traveling to Purchase Street Records, there's very little margin in brand new records. You're not going to get a deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're buying used records, then yeah, you're going to get a deal. If you buy a lot, like Jeff, you bought a lot. I mean, if you went up there with 2 records, I'm sure you're not going to get a deal. But yeah, he's really reasonable and he's a great guy.
Yeah. So Zep Pearl wants to know, I mean, just because we're talking about Record Store Day and we're talking about Metallica, general thoughts about Kirk Hammett's solo EP. What do we think about that?
I think it's killer. I really like it. I know that, well, I mean, and again, Josh and I remember Josh put the needle down on that record. And I think Josh said this in his video. We all looked at each other and we're like, holy shit, this is a good album. So yeah, I think it's a good record.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting it to love it because you guys had told me that you heard things that maybe wasn't that great. But yeah, I love it. It's atmospheric. It's got elements of progressive rock. It sets a tone and a mood. And oh man, I can't get enough of it. I really can't. It's one of my favorites of Record Store Day.
Yeah,
mine too. And
yeah,
like I was saying, it kind of makes you feel like you're in a medieval cartoon, but in a good way, not bad. But it's kind of, you feel like you're this has that atmosphere to it. I really like it. It isn't Metallica. It doesn't sound anything like them. It's definitely more Floyd than Metallica, but not Floyd really either. But it's good. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's hard because, instrumental, like I'm not a huge, I mean, I do like jazz, but as far as instrumentals go, you run the risk of them being boring and somewhat, a little bit self-indulgent at times. But I didn't find that at all with Kirk's album. I found it was very interesting to listen to. There were some progressive elements in it. I'm a huge, as is Gary, as is some of you, a big Pink Floyd fan. And I heard, some Pink Floyd influences on that. I really, and I that was not an album that I had, no shocker there, but on my RSD kind of wish list. But then after I heard, Josh spin his copy, I know, Chris, you got a copy of it. Obviously, Aaron got a copy. But after I heard Josh play it, I'm like, wow, like I really, maybe I should have picked that up. But it's a really fantastic album or EP, I thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's good that it's an EP because, like you were saying, Jeff, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's good, but it if there were 10 songs, it probably wouldn't have been good. But 4 songs, it's just perfect. So,
Yeah, totally.
It's 30 minutes. It's 28 minutes long, pretty much. So,
Gary, how's the Joan Jett?
Good. It's I went back and forth and almost wasn't going to buy it just because I almost couldn't picture Joan Jett doing acoustic songs. But I saw that she had the song Good Music on there, like I told you guys, and that kind of really swayed me because I had like a few records in my hand and I just going back and forth. But I love Joan Jett. So she does a pretty good job. I like it. I mean, it's not mind blowing or anything, but I enjoy it. Now I'm wishing I would have got that Kirk Hammett now after hearing you guys talk about it so much. It was really one that I had no interest in, even though, I like, like Jeff Beck, who does mostly instrumental stuff. And he's like one of my favorite artists. But with him, I think it's kind of like we talked about Kirk Hammett. He kind of does get overlooked as far as like the Guitar Hero thing. Although that's one of the things I kind of thought of when I was listening to Reload, because I'll be honest, I haven't listened to that record for years. This kind of forced me to go back and listen to it. He's got a lot of good guitar parts. Really, he's got a lot of good solos on both these records. Really, I was kind of realizing that he uses an awful lot of wah-wah, but he's got some pretty good solos on this stuff. So yeah, I'd be interested.
Yeah, no, I'm the same as you, Gary. It was not one that was even on my radar. I knew it was coming out, but I'm like, I'm not going to like that. And then I was like, oh, well, I was wrong about that. Dwayne St. John wants to know, did anyone get the reissue of Suicidal Tendencies? How will I laugh tomorrow when I can't even smile today?
Yeah,
great album.
Monday. It's a fantastic album. And it's going to be delivered Monday. I ordered it online.
You know, the album that surprised me was this. I'll grab it. If I can find it.
I bet you we see another pressing of that Kirk Hammett too, but it has been pressed on CD. So Gary,
well, aren't there still you can still get a copy of it for good price, right? Or not?
I'll check Newbury Comics. You know, we went to Newbury Comics. They had one of everything pretty much, besides Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's the record store that I did go to on Record Store Day. I wouldn't be surprised if they still have it, because he had like lots of copies of a lot of the releases. And so
this album here is really good. I didn't really realize it was a covers album when until I got it, but it's really good. And some of these songs are amazing. The song Faith Healer by Alex Harvey Band is great. There's a couple that aren't as good. Like, I don't think he's as good on, where is it? Man on the Silver Mountain. Just I'm so used to Ronnie James Dio, and Udo is so different. But stuff like The Stroke and Rock and Roll from Led Zeppelin actually sounds good. I was surprised. I like that a lot. And, where is it? He's a Woman, She's a Man. The Scorpion song is great on this. Hellbent for Leather sounds amazing. And We Will Rock You is almost unrecognizable.
Wow.
Really, he does that. There's Udo when he's young. But this one really surprised me. I thought this would be like the weakest of the Record Store Day albums I got. And it's maybe my favorite that I got this year. And I got 6, 7 of them. Yeah. I really love that album. Blew me away.
It takes a ball cover Dio.
He does what? Does he do it? Doesn't he do a cover of We Built This City, the Starship song?
I hate that song. No. That's the one song.
I don't know. Maybe
if he did, it would be better.
Yeah. He does My Way, Frank Sinatra, though.
Okay.
He does My Way, right?
Name of it. Yep. It's
I remember back in the day, I couldn't remember who sang We Built This City. And I was like, wasn't it Mr. Mister? And someone was like, it ain't fucking Mr. Mister.
I'm purging my Jefferson Starship albums. I wish somebody was recording. Jeff and I, we came back from your place, Josh. We were in the hotel. He and I were cracking up. We were laughing so much. We were like giggling school children about albums we were going to get rid of and albums we had in our collection. I really wish, Jeff, that we recorded that, because that was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, that was so funny. Just even, like albums that we had that we're almost embarrassed to admit that we had in our collection. Not just one album, but like we're talking, like 3 or 4 albums, that we had. And we're talking about Boss Skaggs and
James Taylor. What's the guy? Gary, who did you just see? Jackson Brown. We were talking about
Jackson Brown, Linda Ronstadt. So much, like, oh my God,
So Chris, did you purge?
I did purge some records. Yeah, quite a bit. Like I said, Jefferson Starship went in there. I like, because I was like, when I'm going to listen to Jefferson Airplane or Jefferson Starship, I'm going to listen to Jefferson Airplane more.
Right.
Yeah, we were talking about Chicago. We're like, how many freaking Chicago albums do you need? I mean, you need the first album, Chicago Transit Authority, and then I don't know. I can't even think of another album after that. But
and I have this. I got this like really cheap, and it's every Chicago album up through Hot Streets. And I was like, this will do me just fine. Why do I have all these Chicago albums taking up space in my library? Like the first. So the ones I didn't purge, the first 3 albums, and then the greatest hits, and then the rest, I'm just like, I'm getting rid of these. Why do I even have these? I don't understand. They're not great albums by any stretch of the imagination. But
I got rid of a couple Van Morrison albums too, because Van Morrison, Jeff and I were saying, he's got some really good albums, but sometimes his voice is freaking annoying. And this might ruffle some feathers too, but people think Astral Weeks is like a masterpiece. I don't know. I can't get into that record. I just feel like it meanders too much, and I'm not getting. I don't even have that album, but I'd rather listen to Tupelo. What is it, Tupelo Honey or something like that? And,
yeah,
or whatever. But I don't know. So I got rid of a couple Van Morrison records, and I don't know. I'll probably regret it, but.
Zep Pearl says the first 5 Chicago are keepers. Like, I agree. I'm not like disputing that Chicago doesn't have some great albums, but like I have them on CD already, and that becomes kind of the debate is, okay, I've got them on CD. Do I need them on vinyl? You know, do I need them taking up space with the rest of my records? Jasmine Collins retracted whatever comment she made, but I know it was a Chicago related comment. But yeah, I mean, that becomes the debate. It's like, okay, like Beatle albums, yeah, like I'm going to have them on CD. I'm going to have them on vinyl. But when it comes to a band like Chicago, like I'm fine. Like I have them on CD. I don't need them on vinyl. I certainly don't need it. I don't, but you know, like I've got some bands where I've got them on every, you know, conceivable format, but some artists, I just don't even need them at all. You know, like Jackson Browne, like his first, that Saturate While Using, you know, like I'll, you know, Doctor My Eyes, I'll put that on Spotify. That'll do me just fine.
I'm getting rid of my Thompson Twins albums.
Don't do it, Chris. You love them.
I am. No, because listen, here's the thing. Like we were saying, if I want to hear Hold Me Now, I'll just go on to Spotify and listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that it's an interesting point you guys make. So it's, you know, I agree with purging your collection from time to time. And you have to say, am I purging for space? Am I purging for money? Am I purging because I'm just not going to listen to these things? Because we can only fit so many records, right? So I think that's a big part of it. And I had made the point when you guys visited that if I really wanted Folsom Prison by Johnny Cash on mono, and it was $100 record, I could say to myself, okay, am I going to buy the KK Priest album for $25 and buy this album for $25 and the next album for $25 and get 4 albums for $25 each? Or would I rather take that $100 and put it towards one of my grails? And I think that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm trying to be more selective. It's hard, but be selective. But now, you know, it's just like Aaron sent me that Clutch, which I freaking love. And it's like, oh, now I want every single Clutch album. That doesn't help. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going through my collection too. And I was like, because I was shitting on the band Spyro Gyra with Jeff. And because I have like 3 or 4 Spyro Gyra albums, I'm like, I don't need Spyro Gyra. And then I put it on the turntable. I'm like, holy shit, this is actually pretty good. So I'm keeping my Spyro Gyra albums. And then I was like, there's this band called Crow. I'm like, I'm getting rid of them. I don't listen to them. I got their greatest hits. But then I'm like, you know what? Let me just put it on the turntable and see. And I put it on. I'm like, holy crap, that's a good album too. So I'm keeping Crow. So that's the thing. I mean, you can't make a quick decision, because a lot of times you got to think about it, because a lot of times you'll regret getting rid of an album.
This is what happened when these came in. Everyone got rid of the records. Said, oh, I have them on CD. I don't need them on vinyl anymore. And then they regretted it. And the same thing's happening with all the streaming services. But I don't ever listen to anything streaming, so I like to have all mine on vinyl, just because I don't make Spotify lists. I've never even been on Spotify or Apple Music or iTunes, or I just have never even done any of that. So I'd like to have a life, but everyone's different. And I do purge mine from time to time too. I get rid of all my monkeys and my country records.
Well, I feel like there's different categories. Like there's certain bands, like the top tier bands, like Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, and Beatles, Led Zeppelin. I'm going to own them on vinyl. I'm going to own them on CD. I'm going to own them on cassette. Then there's some bands where, yeah, I just need to own them on vinyl. And then there's other bands where I've got the CD. I don't need the vinyl. And then there's bands like you say, Chris, Thompson Twins, where I've got a greatest hits of Thompson Twins. Do I really need more than that? Actually, I probably don't. It's not like the Thompson Twins have a bunch of deep tracks where it's like, oh, yeah, well, they have like all these, albums that aren't greatest hits. Like, no, they don't. Like the greatest hits is all you really need from Thompson Twins, and it's, I mean, that's sort of like, making those calls about, okay, do I need this on vinyl, or will the CD do me just fine? And there's certain bands like, yeah, like I want to keep the vinyl, but, there's other bands where I don't even need the vinyl. I just, sometimes I just want a great CD to listen to in the car, and that's all I'm going to use it for.
Well, here's another example. I've seen Culture Club Color by Numbers with the hype and everything on it. I'm like, oh, I need to pick this album up. It's got Karma Chameleon on it or whatever. But Culture Club is another one of those bands that I think you're good with the greatest hits.
Right.
But
yeah, well, that's like about 10 songs too many.
That's my boomerang record. I can't get rid of it. I've given away like 5 or 6 of them trying to get rid of it. And they keep coming to me in collections, and I just can't get rid of it even if I try that one. I've tried and tried.
Which album?
A Culture Club. It's the
Club.
boomerang record to my collection. I've gotten rid of so many copies of it, and it just still ends up in my collection somehow.
Just catching up on some comments that were left. Jasmine says, I think it sounds much better on vinyl, though I had the CD is much better on vinyl. I'm not sure which, I don't know if that's in relationship to Chicago or just bands in general. John, the Dark Wizard says, rather listen and hang on to Van Morrison and them records. Jasmine says, my favorite vinyl is Adele. Zep Pearl says, I'm at that point where it's space that makes me need to purge, but I have regretted past purges. So it's tough what to pull and what to get rid of. I mean, I think we've all struggled with that because I think each of us from one time or another have had to sell off our collections, our vinyl collections. And it's usually for financial reasons more than space. But yeah, anytime I'm like pulling out an album and like, okay, I'm getting rid of this. It's like, okay, I have to have that conversation about, am I going to regret this 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? Like, oh, I had that album, but I got rid of it. Damn it.
I mean, that does happen. Sorry, Chris.
No,
but you know what I'll tell you about purging is like when I first started collecting, I had so many movie soundtracks that I would never listen to because I loved the movie. Like I had an OG Major League soundtrack, the movie Major League, which didn't even have the original version of Wild Thing on it. I'm letting you know. Like I never listened to this thing, but I love the movie so much. I'm like, I have the soundtrack. I would just buy endless amounts of soundtracks. And now I don't do that as much because I say to myself, it's one thing if I found it for $1, at a flea market. But, so purging does help sometimes because you can say like, well, I really don't need the Major League soundtrack. I'm probably not going to listen to that.
Yeah. Well, and Zep Pearl says too, and this is a great point. I have also looked for records in my collection and can't find it and say to myself, damn, did I purge that years ago? You guys ever been there and been like, oh shit, I know I had that album. Where is it? You're looking, you got them all alphabetized and you can't find it. And then you realize you sold it off.
That's why when I purge now, I purge my doubles. And then I try to keep a copy of everything. And then unless it's something I really, really dislike, like I'm not a country fan. I keep a few really good that I actually can listen to a little, or I know I have friends that like or something, but I tend to purge just the stuff that I know I won't go to because I've done that and it sucks when you go to pull a record and you're like, I had it. Oh man, wish I still had that. And that's the worst. Almost worse.
Aaron, an example, we had talked earlier in the week and you were saying, Stevie Wonder is not a band, not a record, those records aren't ones that you pull out. And then, your stepdad comes over and is like, hey, let's listen to some Stevie Wonder. And you're like, oh, well, I just happen to have some Stevie Wonder, and you pull it out, an album that you never listened to, but then somebody comes along and is like, hey, that'd be great to hear some Stevie Wonder. And you're like, oh, well, I'm glad I had that,
Yep. And then I listened to it a few times after that. And, I've had it in my collection the whole time without hearing it once. All of a sudden you hear it a bunch. So you just never know what's going to trigger that.
I think the other thing too with purging is like when I purged, I had, every Megadeth album up to Cryptic Writings, and I had every Slayer album, like the entire Slayer discography. Now it's impossible to find those Slayer albums besides the Metal Blade records. And in terms of Megadeth, I think I have 3. I think I have the one you sent me, Aaron, So Far, So Good, So What. I have the Cryptic Writings, and I have the one that came before Countdown to Extinction, Rust in Peace. And I can't find the others. So it's like sometimes purging, that's the downside too, is you're like, now I have to wait for another repress. And
I think what Jeff and I were talking about, it's like not getting rid of those sort of like the Slayers and the Megadeths or whatever. We're talking about getting rid of those albums you see everywhere in every bin. And
you never know.
They're like the $2 and $3 records, and we're like, do I need all these $2 and $3 records in my collection? I don't know,
But the $2 and $3 records now, you never know which one is going to be hard to find because there was a time when you were finding like Fleetwood Mac Rumors for $5 everywhere. Now, where do you see it? You just never know. I mean, that's just one as an example, but you never know what ones are going to be hard to find 5 years down the road of those cheap ones.
Yeah.
it's hard to tell. It's really hard to do it.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah, no, and it's hard because once you sold it, I mean, it's gone. But I mean, I feel very comfortable that the records that I'm getting rid of are ones that I'm not going to, regret. Like, Neil Diamond's greatest hits on, a budget label release, which a live version of Cherry Cherry, not even the original studio. Like, I'm not going to miss that record. I don't even know why I bought it. It was in the dollar bin, and there's some dollar bin like Get the Knack. I thought, well, everybody's got this as part of their collection. Well, like My Sharona, and then what else is there? I mean, maybe somebody is a huge Knack fan and may disagree, but as far as my taste go, like, I just bought that because I think it was a day when I went into the record store, I couldn't find anything else. And so I'm browsing through the dollar bin. I found a sleeve that was in great condition. The vinyl was in decent shape. I thought, okay, I'll pick that up. But now it's just taking up space. And there's a lot of records that I have like that, where when my collection was smaller and I could afford the space, I had plenty of space so I could pick those dollar records up, or those records that were only $2 or $3. It's like, okay, well, this isn't hurting me any. But now it's like that shit's got to go. Like, I bought that Knack record a year ago. I have never once put it on my turntable. And in the next year, am I going to? Probably not. So, like, you're out of here,
Well, I think the other thing too is that with all these records, we also have to buy the outer sleeves and inner sleeves too. So it's like, all right, I got a MoFi sleeve on my Anne Murray record. I'm like, do I need a freaking MoFi inner sleeve on my Anne Murray record? No, I'd rather put it on the Voivod record. So Anne Murray, you're out of here. All I need is your greatest hits. And I thought about that. I'm like, I got a Japanese pressing of this Anne Murray album. I don't know. I'm going to get rid of it though, because really all I need is her greatest hits. And I'm not wasting my MoFi inner sleeves on Anne Murray records. So I don't know.
Does it have the Obi?
It does have the Obi. I don't know. Should I keep it?
I don't know, man. I'd get, what does Aaron have? Huey Lewis and the News?
I love that record.
Yeah, I mean, I would buy that a Japanese pressing.
I've got a Japanese Cargo, First Minute Work. I've got Rio. I've got Heartbeat City. I got all kinds of Japanese.
They were at one point they picked on me during their trip, Aaron, and they were like, "Do you have Cargo, Josh?" And I was like, "No, but it's a good album." They're like, "Well, Aaron has a Japanese pressing of that." Like,
I have the master recording in a MoFi.
Yeah. I need to get on this.
Yeah, that's actually a great sounding record. My Japanese Cargo. It's like their version of MoFi.
Yeah, I will.
But I think if I only collected one format, like if all I was vinyl, if all I was CD, I could be a little bit more forgiving in terms of my choices of records. But I collect all three formats, and I just don't have the space for CDs and cassettes and vinyl. So there's some hard choices that have to be made, and some I'm just like, I don't need this vinyl. I've got it on CD, or I've got the greatest hits. I don't need the entire Bob James discography. I don't need, all these. I don't need all these goddamn Doobie Brothers albums taking up space in my collection. Who needs more than just the best of the Doobies? I mean, honestly, and if What a Fool Believes and Minute by Minute, you can find on that record, but I certainly don't need the goddamn. There's no. I think the greatest hits of the, Doobies Volume 2 is a misnomer. It's like there's no greatest hits. It's just the two songs off Minute by Minute. Why are you in my collection? But I can tell you there's some people in the BC who are going to get those records in the mail, even though they didn't ask for them. They're going to be like bonus, like, oh, I'll take those two records. And I'm like, and you're getting Volume 2 of the Doobies as well as a little bonus, added surprise you didn't expect. But anyway.
Well, I mean, it leads to, Jeff, we had this conversation too, that when you were over was like, how often do I grab the same records to listen to also? I think that's one of my biggest issues is that, like, I tend to think, oh, I'm going to listen to this again, listen to this again. I really need to stretch out and listen to more of my records, too. I think that will help me understand if I should purge or not,
Well, here's a funny story. I came back from Josh's and I'm like, I'm not buying any more records because I bought way too many. And then frickin' Gary shows Buck Owens' Bridge Over Troubled Water, the record store day release from last year, the clear vinyl. I'm like, fuck. So I ordered it. And I wasn't going to buy any more records, Gary, but you forced me to.
Chris,
It's
I
a
think
good sounding record.
you need to quit visiting people. He did the same thing when he visited me. You're like, I'm not doing any more records for.
Yeah.
Every time you go visit one of us, you get on that no record kick.
Yeah.
But it's like somebody who's an alcoholic or somebody who's a smoker. And they're like, okay, I'm quitting. I'm not smoking anymore. I'm not drinking anymore. And then you go hang out with your friends and they're smoking and they're drinking. And you're like, oh shit, that looks so good. All right, I'm just going to have one more. I'm just going to have one more drink. And then, that's how I do. I'm like, I am not buying any more fucking records. And then, I go to the bar, I go, I check out people's YouTube's videos and I'm like, oh, I need that one. Oh, I need that record. Okay, just one more record. It's going to be that one. And then next thing you know, I've got Amazon packages coming in my door every single day again. It's like, okay, well, what's the point?
I think the other thing that spawned this too is Jeff and I were looking through Josh's collection. And I said to Jeff, I'm like, I don't think Josh has any shit records in his collection. I'm like, most of his shit is like high quality. That's the good stuff. And I'm like, I don't think I saw any Doobie Brothers records. I didn't see anything by Bread. And again, I love Bread. But then Jeff and I were like, shit, we got some crap in our collection. We got to get it out.
No, yeah. I mean, I did have crap, but I also sold my collection. You know what I mean? So you have to, if you sold your collection tomorrow, you wouldn't make some of the same choices, especially since I have to replace so many of these records. So many of my favorite records are not in my collection anymore. So I have to think, and that's why I can leave a record store without buying anything. Even though I do love a lot of those albums you mentioned, I'm still trying to get, Peace Sells, but who's buying? I'm still trying, you know what I mean? So it's like, why am I going to spend money when there's so many of my classic albums I don't own? I actually still missing Springsteen albums, still missing Neil Young albums. It's like, and these are some of my favorite artists. So, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I went 2 years without Nebraska, which I know that sounds like who gives a shit, but Nebraska is like one of my all-time favorite albums. Yeah. And to be like all that time period, looking at my record collection going, I don't own Nebraska. You know what I mean? Just waiting to find a good copy.
It's always in the back of your head.
It's always.
I need a bracelet on my arm, WWJD, and it's not what would Jesus do, it's what would Josh do. And he sure as fuck wouldn't have this album in his collection. Like, this is one of those, like, why the fuck do I have this record? It's got Boomtown on it. If I ever feel the need to listen to that goddamn song, I can hear it on Spotify. I do not need this vinyl. I've never heard it's the first track. Welcome to the Boomtown is the first track on this album. Then I lift the needle. I don't listen to the rest of it. Why do I have this? It was $1 record. I can't even explain it. It's like, was I drunk when I went to the record store and bought that?
Well, I'm keeping some stuff that other people would think is shit. I am keeping all my 27 Herb Alpert albums I have, and my 60 Rod McEwen records, and my Anne Murray greatest hits and my Barry Manilow greatest hits. I'm keeping those albums because I don't know, I like those, but you got to draw the line. You got to draw the line somewhere, though.
Chris, let me ask you. So you have Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, right?
I have it on,
and you know that the value of that right now is probably like $400-$500, something crazy.
Yeah.
We know that's too big of an album to never get another vinyl pressing.
Yeah.
It's way too big of an album, right? It's one of the biggest albums of the 90s. So eventually they're going to repress that. Is there any part of you that's like, I'm going to go sell that for $500 and then take that money and buy all these grails that I'm missing in my collection? And then eventually when they repress it, I'll buy it again for $120.
So you think they're going to repress that album?
Hell yeah. I mean, there's too much money to be made. There's money on the table. We're not talking about, okay, so me and Aaron, we love this band, right? Like let's just name any, like Shotgun Messiah, Second Coming, okay? So me and Aaron and 500 other dudes in the vinyl community are going to be all excited. If Smashing Pumpkins release Melancholy Infinite Sadness, they're talking 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people are going to buy it. Not 1,000 or 2,000, right? So it's going to get an enormous pressing. I can't imagine that we're going to live in a world where Smashing Pumpkins is not going to get a repress. Now, right now, everything's on a backlog. So it's like they're trying to press the new Red Hot Chili Peppers. They're trying to press. So that's why we don't see Alice in Chains albums in the record store. That's why we don't see Smashing Pumpkins. But they've got to repress it. It's way too big of a band.
Well, this guy's selling it for $360 on
I mean, seriously, why do I have this album? Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone. I remember it from like the mid 80s or whatever. I remember liking that, but I don't need the entire album. Like, why the fuck do I have a 12-inch single of Hit to Be Square? Like, do I really need the dance remix? Do I need the dub mix of this? I have no idea what the hell am I doing with this. Like,
you're gonna miss that, Jeff.
Yeah, don't get rid of the 12.
I won't.
Jeff, don't get rid of any 12-inch singles.
Josh is telling me I need to sell my Smashing Pumpkins now.
No, I'm just planting the seed. I'm just wondering. The thing is this.
Oh my God, Josh is telling me I need to sell my Smashing Pumpkins.
I'm not. I could easily
do it.
I could easily sell my Alice in Chains records, right? Like Unplugged from Alice in Chains sells for $300. I'm not selling it. I know that there'll be another repressing at some point in my life. But you have to think about the vinyl boom would have to completely tank. And even if it did tank, who's really going to suffer out of all of us as collectors is probably me and Aaron, because we love these obscure metal bands that are getting pressings now. And you too, Chris, obviously you like some of these, but they're so obscure that it's like there's only a handful of people that love them, right? But the big bands, there'll always be a market for them.
Well, it's funny. I wrote Josh last night, I think it was. I'm like, do I drop $60 on a 2010 pressing of Master of Reality, the Rhino pressing with the poster? So then he sends me like the acoustic sounds where you can get Master of Puppets or Master of Reality for like $30. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't have the poster. And he's like, dude, you can just go buy a poster for like $20 or whatever at I don't know, Spencer's or something like that. But I don't know. These are the kind of things that we all think about, though.
Yeah, because you have to think about it this way. If you had an original pressing of Melancholy, which I don't recommend, because the original pressing of Melancholy, they had to mix up the songs to be able to fit on 3 vinyl records. What is your box set? 4 or 5 records?
4 records, yeah.
Yeah, so they did it on 3 records. The sound quality is terrible, but it's worth a lot of money. So if you said to me, I have an OG pressing of this record.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously there's some value or emotional attachment to it also if you've had it since the early 90s. But if you're talking a repress of an album, like, and that's what I debate. I don't do it, but I debate. Like, I have a Music on vinyl pressing of Alice in Chains Dirt, and it sells for like $200. It sounds great, but it's like, man, I could sell that and I could go buy Second Coming, right? Like I could take that money and go buy Shotgun Messiah, Second Coming, and wait for the Alice in Chains repress. But my heart says, don't get rid of it, Josh. You know what I mean? Don't sell it. Keep it. You love Dirt.
But I love our frame of mind. We're like, yeah, I could sell it and make a lot of money and then go buy more records. It's not like we're saying, oh, I'm going to sell it and then I'm going to buy my wife, whatever, a nice new ring, or I'm going to buy my mom a great Mother's Day present. No, fuck it. We're going to buy, the other Alice in Chains album we don't have or something like that. So,
I mean, imagine what Jeff could buy if he had Melancholy, sold it for $300 and went down into the basement. You know how many 12-inch singles he could get from Purchasing Records for $300?
Yeah. I would miss that Smashing Pumpkins, though.
I know. And I'm not telling you to sell it. I'm just planting the seed.
Sell it, sell it, sell it.
You know, I mean, there's obviously records that if they become too valuable, it's hard for me to play because I get nervous. Like I used to have a Samhain record before I sold my collection that it cost me $540. And now it's worth thousands, which I was stupid to sell it. But I was nervous to play a $550 record. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The Sam Hain box set, I'm going to put that in the same category as the Johnny Cash Unearthed box set. It's kind of awkward and big, and it's just sort of like you never are going to pull those records out and listen to them. You and I were talking about that. It's almost like a showpiece. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's difficult when it's that box set.
Bulky. It's bulky.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes the 45, like back in the day, it was all you need. Like Zep Pearl was talking about that Boomtown song. Just buy the 45, look for that rather than the whole record. John the Dark Wizard, Glass Tiger just own the live extended version CD. Like some of these, I just need them on CD or let's just let them, like the Glass Tiger, all I need is the one. I can just pull it up on Spotify. I don't need the physical copy of for one song. But you find them cheap. You see all these records on the dollar bin. Oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that band. And then you just kind of you have a lapse in judgment. Now they're taking up space in your collection. But I don't know, I'm sure we're not alone. Gary, you got any shit in your collection that you probably
I do. Yeah, all kinds. I just don't know if I want to purge it or not. Certain ones I easily could, but I'm listening to some records like right now that 5 years ago I didn't have any interest in. So I never know for sure where my taste. I mean, yeah, I've got those certain bands. I'm always going to love them no matter what. But there's other artists where sometimes I grow out of them, grow back into them. I kind of hate doing it because like I've never really taken too many records or CDs or whatever and sold them, maybe some of them. But what I have done is trade them in for other music that I wanted. And then somewhere down the road, I'm like, I wish I had those back, those ones that I traded in. But at the time, I didn't care about them. Now, I've done a lot more of that with like my comic book collection. So like I'm really into DC comics. So like I have traded away some Marvel comics that other people would have been like, oh, that's like a fantastic grail. But I wasn't as emotionally attached to it. So I'm willing to get rid of it to get something else that I like. But with my records, I have a fear kind of doing that just because I don't know. I might want to come back and listen to it.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, well, Aaron, you got a lot of space. Obviously, you got a lot of records behind you. Do you ever think about, well, maybe I need to get rid of some, or are you just like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I don't care if I never listen to it. I'd rather
every 2 or 3 years. I do purge every 2 or 3 years, but it's mainly doubles. I like to keep my best copy of the records, and even if it's stuff I don't like, I like to keep most of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, like you said, you just never know what you're going to like a few years down the road.
Orion with the hype. Somewhat.
Now, all right, here's my debate. I have like 6 Orion albums. Now, these are okay, so they're on the Sun label. So Josh, I got to get some props on the Sun label. Exactly. And what's also cool too is that when these were pressed, they're pressed on yellow wax.
Wow.
So, and there's that beautiful Sun label right there. But do I need 6 Orion albums?
Does anybody?
An album you need.
Yeah. I mean, what's your guys' thoughts? Do I keep it because it's colored wax or what?
Well, if you like piss yellow albums,
and this guy
keep that.
Andreas Vollenweiter, he plays the harp. It's kind of cool, but I don't know if I need it. Taco After 8.
Keep that one.
Putting on the Ritz. Keep it.
Or send it to me.
Oh, you want this record?
You're not getting rid of that, Chris. You know it.
Yeah, I do like
Orion.
That was some crazy shit.
I don't know. They're kind of a cool thing to have. I mean, I have the whole Orion collection. I mean, I don't know if that's a cool thing or. Here's his album Sunrise. You know.
I'm sorry, but that looks to me like the kind of shit Jeff and I see when we go to the Goodwill service. Here's Orion. Here's Jimmy Swaggart. Here's Andy Williams.
Here's Mitch Miller.
So I guess what you're saying is get rid of the Orion album.
If you like them, no. You know.
Yeah. Taco.
Well,
I mean, this is,
you know, and the bar that I use is okay. If I took this to my record store, would they give me anything for it, or would they laugh in my face? You know, and if they're gonna laugh in my face and be like, "No, we're not taking that shit," then it's going. I'm not hanging on.
Listen, the Orion albums also have the original like order form and stuff with them.
There you go.
Can you order the mask off that?
I think you. I don't know, but I don't know. Would I miss them? I don't
Chris
know.
has the most pristine copies of Orion. They're
still in the shrink.
Still in the shrink. You know what's crazy though, guys? When I think about when I sold my collection, right? So I couldn't wait to get like Aerosmith Pump, for instance, right? Like I couldn't wait to get Aerosmith Pump back in my collection. Now, some people might say, why the hell was Pump so important? But to me, that's an album that just puts me in a good mood. I listen to it all the time before I sold my collection. So when I started to rebuy my collection, I'm like, well, I need Pump. Now, of course, I need the 70s Aerosmith because I love the 70s Aerosmith, right? But so you start to know when if you ever do get rid of your collection, you do know like these are the albums that I miss the most, I need the most in my collection. It makes it a little bit easier, but I don't recommend it because it is a painful process to get rid of everything and then try to rebuild it, you know. But you
don't
probably
have Taco in a MoFi sleeve?
No, I took it out because I was gonna purge it, but now I don't know. Should I keep it? I mean, I have the 45 of Putting on the Ritz. Do I need the full record?
I think you should send it to Aaron. Aaron loves it. Send it to Aaron. He loves it.
My mom and my stepdad love that record. That's why I like it, because I heard it a lot when I was young.
You like this record, Aaron?
Yeah, I think the whole thing's good. Yeah.
All right, I'll send it to you.
I'll trade it for Anne Murray.
What's going to happen is I'm going to rebuy this at some point because I'm going to.
I know you will.
Here's what happens though, and this is what happened. Like we're like, oh, we're going to sell this until somebody else expresses interest in it,
Yeah,
and then you're like, oh well, fuck, is it a good record? Should I not get rid of it? And now I'm thinking, well, wait, Aaron wants it, so do I keep it?
Wait a minute, it might be good.
I've heard you talk about how much you love that record.
I'm just kidding, Aaron. I'm going to send it to you. You tell me, let me know too, Aaron, if there's something that you want, like that's not Taco, like something a little bit better. Let me know if there's something you're looking for.
Like Orion?
Well, maybe Melancholy.
Yeah,
Sadness.
I could throw in Orion.
Do you have any Orion, Aaron?
No.
No. See, I think you totally should, Chris.
I might just keep them. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fuck with people tonight. I'm going to make an Orion discography video.
There you go.
Well, I want to see Aaron's video that he posts where he's pulling out Taco, he's pulling out Orion, he's pulling out Anne Murray, his VCLT from Chris.
Well, Jeff and I were like, let's send Craig all of our records that we don't want, you know, and suddenly he gets all of our Chicago and Jackson Brown and, you know, whatever. So,
Aaron, a Tipsy Tuesday where you pull out every single one of your wife's records, the ones you play for your wife, would be hysterical. You know what I mean? Like, what's that?
I do.
No, but I mean complete. Like no.
Are we still on? Are we still live?
I don't know. Are we live?
I think so.
Yeah, we still are. Well, and I love when Chris goes back because it just means he's pulling out more records that.
Here's another
I'll
band.
laugh
Like, I justify having this because Ted Templeman was in this band, and of course we know Ted Templeman went on to produce Van Halen. It's Harper's Bazaar. I've got 3 Harper's Bazaar records. This album, The Secret Life of Harper's Bazaar, and Harper's Bazaar, Anything Goes. Now, this includes Chattanooga Choo Choo, but do I fucking need 3 Harper's Bazaar albums? I don't know. Aaron, you want these?
No.
Chris, didn't you say that you didn't own Peter Gabriel's So?
I don't, but I do have 6 Orion albums.
Because I was gonna say, like, you got 3 Harper Bazaar albums, but you don't own So by Peter Gabriel.
I have So on CD.
All right.
So
Well, you at least got the CD.
These are going. Any of you want these albums?
No, it's okay.
All right. I mean, Josh, this one includes Chattanooga Choo Choo.
That's okay.
Chattanooga Choo Choo Train.
I like my collection. It's hand cured.
I guarantee Josh has no Harper's Bazaar in his collection.
Well, I feel like he's totally like listening to this conversation with contempt for all of us in our record collection. Like, oh my God, you have Glass Tiger. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, Orion, seriously? I would never let that record into my house, you know.
But Aaron does want tacos, so
I do not feel that way. No, I mean, music is subjective. Art is subjective. If it gets you going, guys, it's all that matters.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not into Orion, but Chris is, so that's a beautiful thing.
But it's Chris's favorite band, so
exactly. What can you do?
Aaron, you ever thought of purging Lulu?
I would love to have Lulu. I don't have it on CD. I'd love to find that on vinyl.
I could have bought that for $10
if I got it. Huh?
I was at Newbury Comics back in the day, and it was in their clearance rack. This was before, and it was $10. And I was thinking about it, and I should have just got it. But I was like, how often am I going to listen to it? But it's actually grown on me, surprisingly. It's tough sometimes where I'm the table or whatever the hell James says, but the music.
I know what he's talking about. I've been there.
Have there been any rumblings about a one-step pressing of this record?
No, there has not.
So, are you guys into ragtime? I've got Scott Joplin ragtime songs. Tom Jones? No? Aaron, you want this?
Me, though.
Still in the shrink. This is on Angel Records. This is a pretty cool label. Oh, it's got a polyline sleeve. Check that out.
It's a nice label there.
Yeah. Nobody wants the Scott Joplin? No?
Well, Vance says that Lulu is big money right now. Apparently, that's in high demand. So,
yep. Should have bought.
I gotta go, guys.
I'm working in the morning too.
So, thanks everybody who watched tonight.
Yeah. You
Thanks,
bet. No, I think we'll do this from now on. So I think every week we're going to do this live. It was a success. So I think we'll just continue this going forward. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. I think we had a lot of fun. I think we'll maybe pick a more universal kind of topic, not limit it to one band next time. Maybe we'll focus on a more broader topic that we'll discuss, but we'll be dropping we'll let everybody know what that will be probably, early next week, what our topic for next Thursday night will be. I'm sure we'll have Brandon and most of us will also be joining us, but we were competing with the NFL draft and the hockey playoffs, which the Columbus Blue Jackets, I guess, won their game tonight 5-2.
Not a playoff game, but it's the end of the season.
Yeah, well, a win's a win, right? So,
That's right, especially for Columbus.
Yeah, we'll take it.
All right, guys.
All
Looks
right.
like-
Yeah. You guys have
Uh,
a great night. And, same for everybody. Thank you, Art Room Records. Thank you, Zep Pearl. Thank you, Sam St. John, who came in to the room. Thank you, everybody. John the Dark Wizard room. Jasmine, thank you. Rich, I don't think you're still on anymore, but, thanks for everybody for joining us. Check us out next week. And, tell all your friends.
Yep. See ya.
See ya.
All right, guys. I'm going to bed.
Me too. Me
Same
too.
here.
All right.
All
Have
right.
a good one.
See you,
That was
gentlemen.